That was the coolest twist, where that was what really hooked me, because, you know, the gunslinger sets that all up, and then immediately it's like, oh, remember this dude we spent an entire book showing you is like hyper competent? Yeah, well, fuck all that.
Yeah.
Here's him at his worst. All right. Anyway, welcome to Ka Busters, your bi-weekly podcast about the Dark Tower series.
And Batman.
And Batman, of course. Okay, then we should actually start.
I was like, are you actually starting the episode? Like, I feel bad for whoever's editing and has to figure out where to open this thing.
I'm sure Batman is on one of the levels of the tower.
It's the basement. It's the Batcave. All right.
Mythos Busters, investigating the mystery, monsters, and madness of Arkham Horror, the card game.
Hello and welcome to episode 128 of Mythos Busters. I'm Sean. It's Saturday night, and boy, we have the full crew. I'm so excited. It never happens. It happened by accident. We didn't comment on it at all like we normally do, and we made it happen, boys. I'm proud of us. So it's Nick. Hey Nick,
Hello.
Are you proud of us?
I am. I'm always proud of us, but especially when we're all together.
That's wholesome. And Scott. Hey, Scott.
Hello.
Are you proud of us?
Yes, but more so for a lot of other things and not necessarily just showing up at the same time.
I mean, feat.
It's great. It's cool, yeah. But and we kind of like jumped into the channel at the right start time almost.
Almost?
So
Like, we're doing pretty okay for us. It's a good thing.
Yep.
And of course, rounding out the crew is Ian.
Hello.
Hey, Ian.
I am also
How
proud
are you?
of us.
Oh, I'm as the big brother of the crew. That means the most, I think.
I'm not always proud of myself, but as a collective, I'm proud of us.
We got
Nailed
you,
it.
All right, well, guys, we've got a fun and it seems like pretty laid back episode tonight. We've got a little bit of news updates. We're gonna go through our regular openers, and then we've just gonna pick up some Edge of the Earth player card reviews, because it seems like the thing to do nowadays.
Actually, I think it was the thing to do like a few months ago. But yeah.
If they don't listen to any other podcast, how would they know? You think anyone just listens to one Arkham podcast? Do you think are we enough? Or
Well,
Whoa,
is
that's
the
a big
appetite...
question.
Well, no. Okay, let me unload it then. Is the appetite insatiable? Insatiable, right?
Insatiable, yeah.
I think there are people who listen to single podcasts. And not necessarily us.
That was a far less dramatic answer than I was hoping for.
Certainly, in terms of length, we should provide enough content. But,
Quality, but
Yeah.
length, oh yeah.
Anyway, so guys, let's check in. So first, a quick reminder to everyone. Scott, I'm gonna hand this one off to you.
Iron Man?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, it's
you're
happening.
Iron Man boy. You're the Iron Man, right?
We're all Iron Man on this day.
Aw.
So Saturday, May 14th, starting in the morning, because we are doing it virtually this year. It's, start when you want. We're going to be starting, I think, around 9 a.m. Central-ish. Yeah. And we'll be streaming it, so you can catch us live on Twitch. And we'll obviously ship that to YouTube as well. But please join us and chat with us, and we'll have a channel on the Discord server to chat. Yeah, it's the Dream Eaters.
Now, I know this is a terrible thing to ask it live because I'm basically answering it, but do you guys think it's okay to share like the big difference between this year's Iron Man and the last one we streamed?
Other than the campaign and the decks and
Is that a no?
I think it's okay.
Yeah.
No, we're streaming live from my kitchen table with all four of us in the same room. and I am so very excited for it.
Oh,
Yeah, we're gonna be sharing oxygen.
yep.
Put it that way, Ian.
Just that.
That phrase is not really aged well, Ian. That's it's somewhat dangerous sometimes.
Yeah.
But anyway, we've bought a bunch of in-person streaming equipment. We've yet to set it up, so if you want to see us fumble through it on a couple of tech demo nights and yell at us as to why it's bad and what we need to change about it, follow us on twitch.com/mythosbusters.
I thought you were going to say we have yet to set it up, so if you want to come do that, we would appreciate it.
I mean, look, if anyone reached out for that specific reason, I would not stop you, but I wouldn't ask it of anyone.
Do we think this one is gonna be longer than 16 hours? Our length last time.
Was that how long Circle was?
Oh, yeah, it was
17
hours.
Oh,
Was
my
it 17?
God.
Oh, even worse than I thought.
Because we had the tech difficulties like halfway through the second scenario.
Yeah.
I feel like it's gonna go faster in person, actually.
Yeah,
I think it will.
That's the hope.
Well, I think too, like TTS, you slow down a bit because, especially when you're streaming, you're describing what you're doing. Whereas in person, and I mean, this makes for a less, I guess, slightly less great streaming experience. But I mean, it's like, hey, I just got a setup turn. I'm just gonna play down a couple assets, right? And like, you can look and see that I put down, a magnifying glass and a whatever. But that's a lot quicker than in TTS, like clicking things and dragging things, right? Like, I don't know. It feels.
Yeah, there's
I
also
feel
just
like we'll
a
play faster.
yeah, there's also just like a little bit of a mental tax that adds up on TTS where it doesn't in person. So at least for me.
Well, and as the camera, I can tell you that having to move things around and look at every
Yeah.
viewpoint, it adds time because because half the time I'd get the frickin' camera wrong, and then everyone who was watching would have to it would spin sideways because I was on 90-degree angles from everyone, and it was just. I'm very happy we're going to be streaming live this year. It's going to be great. Looking forward to it.
Yeah. One thing to note too, for anyone who booked their hotel for BusterCon, which we've now obviously had to delay BusterCon, the hotel block is no longer existent. So if you,
did it blow up?
Well, no, I mean, the event isn't happening. So, so if you are still planning at staying at the hotel, I think there was a few people coming in to do in-person Iron Man, maybe at the event center or something. Please contact the hotel about keeping your room. So I just thought I'd throw that out there.
And make sure that they haven't blown up.
Please ask the hotel, have you guys exploded yet?
Yeah, if you ask it in that way, it might be interpreted as a threat, but
We should add also that DeLarp Guy, again, this year is helping us with organizing the Iron Man teams. So on the Discord, and I'm sure we'll put a link in the show notes, there is a Google Docs, a Google form you can fill out. So even if you have your team and everything like that, please still fill it out, because one, we like to see how many people are playing with us. Two, there's going to be, call them door prizes, but like just, hey, you played Iron Man with us and you signed up, so there's a bunch of drawing for a bunch of different prizes. It also is there in case you are a solo person or two people and you want to find other players. We've done this with Josh a few times, pretty much everything but the first couple Iron Man. Anyways, and he's organized people together, got people in contact. So if you are looking for the 4-player experience, but you're just a solo person, like he will grab like 2 players of 2, or like 3 and 1, or maybe 1 and 2, whatever. He gets them together so you can make a team. So yeah, check out our Discord in the Iron Man channel for signing up on that form. And again, even if you have your team and everything's set, sign up because there's prizes.
Sign up because there's prizes. And the other thing that we did last year is we set up a status report channel in Discord. And if you care to, please, we encourage you, every time your group finishes a scenario, throw a little blurb in there. Give us your resolution, give us your XP, any specific things or notable stories. They're really fun to read through. And when we're between scenarios in our playthrough, normally I hop to that channel and kind of check in with everyone. So it also gives you a very, very good reason to come up with a clever team name, because I read them out all the time, and I always favor the ones that are funniest. So that's just how that is.
We'll also have to figure out. I mean, I assume we could probably just do what we did last year, or similar to it, for the drawing of the weaknesses. Where if you want, I'll have to make a Google Doc or whatever. But if you want your team to have your weaknesses drawn in a very glamorous style, we'll figure out a way and we'll stream it somehow. So
yeah, details on that to come.
Yeah.
We've got
it's okay. We'll figure.
Yeah, let's gauge interest. God, it makes me sad. That we got to do it 1 year in person, and I'm like, oh, this is my new favorite part of Iron Man.
Yeah.
And then we didn't get to do it ever again.
I kind of enjoyed the tarot style reading I did last year.
That was fun. It seemed exhausting for you.
It was exhausting thinking of ways to read the cards as tarot cards, because I've never done that ever.
Let's take a little bit of the mental burden off you this year.
Yeah, I don't mind making. We'll figure it out. But drawing of the weaknesses, we'll figure something out.
Yep. So sign up ASAP, but make sure if you're looking for a team, get that in by April 30th, because that's when Josh will be compiling and assigning anyone who wants to be assigned to a team.
Mm-hmm.
And as always, if you have any questions, feel free to shoot us an email, a voicemail, hop in Discord, wherever you'd like to get in contact with us. We are very available for you. All right. Whew. Oh, so excited. So what Arkham have you guys been playing lately?
I recently did a standalone game with Casey, and I brought out the old Son of a Gun Yorick deck, and it hummed, and it was beautiful, and the amount of times I got to pull a Bless token with Favor of the Sun and then Ancient Covenant for an automatic success and do 3 damage with the Winchester? Is that the gun? Oh, man, that deck is just awesome.
That's a fun deck.
It's so good. Oh, I know what we were doing. We were playtesting our scenario.
Oh,
That's what we were doing. Yeah. And, oh, man, that deck worked really well. It did things, so.
Hint, hint.
Mm-hmm.
Guns are good in Arkham. Who knew?
Yeah.
Cool. Ian, how about you?
I started a new Edge of the Earth campaign. I was playing through Edge. I keep starting Edge campaigns, and then something will happen where I get interrupted in the middle of the game, and I don't feel like going back and remembering what I was doing and continuing that campaign. So I still have only actually finished one Edge campaign, but I've started a bunch, and I don't know why this keeps happening. I think I just need to. Well, I know what's happening. I'm just
literally
busy,
a mountain to climb, huh?
Yeah. But the latest campaign I started was with Rita and Jim. Rita, because I haven't tried her since the new Edge cards came out. So I think it's mostly a fairly standard Rita deck, except for I'm trying out the Enchanted Bow for the first time, which is obviously quite a good Rita card. And then I got a bunch of other bag of tricks. And then the Jim deck, I am trying out the whole Jim Winchester build for the first time and pairing it with Nkosi to make sure you could. So I have Charisma and Nkosi and Olive, and just really fishing for that skull as much as I can is the basic build. It's worked pretty well so far. I'm still trying to figure out the best way to pilot both, but I think there's a lot of potential, and especially with a lot of these cards that favor Jim, I feel like it's a pretty good success rate of trying to fish for skulls, at least way more than it used to be.
Is that how you say that ally's name? I've been saying Nkosi. Is there... Sorry to take a weird tangent here, but now you've got me in my head about how I'm saying it.
I don't know 100%, but that's how I've been pronouncing it in my head, and Nkosi. But yeah, someone can correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, but definitely as strong as everyone kind of predicted it would be for Jim, but I still don't have the Winchester success rate where I want it to be. But I feel like that's more pilot error more than anything else, or I need more XP in the build, something along those lines. But It definitely hits more often than it used to, I'll say that much.
You know, all you got to do, Ian, is just take that card and put it into a York deck, and then all of a sudden it works really well.
Yeah, okay,
No,
but
but Jim
that's
wants
just
it.
a rule for Arkham, Scott. That's just a rule for Arkham in general.
I know.
Most cards are better in York.
Oh, I guess, yeah.
I mean, not mind over matter.
I said most.
I thought the rule was like someone anytime you say, "Oh, I'm having trouble making this card work," be like, "Well, why don't you just change your deck completely from what you're doing?" All you gotta do is change 28 cards in your investigator. It'll work fine.
There are some deck building
Good
threads
together.
that I wander in and I'm like, are you here to actually give advice or do you just want to show us your deck?
Yeah. Hey man, here's an option. Why don't you go publish your own deck? Because it seems like you really like it.
Where are we? Nick?
Hello. Oh,
What you been playing?
I was gonna say I haven't been playing anything. I've been thinking about starting up another Edge of the Earth campaign. I was doing my Innsmouth and inserting a bunch of side scenarios, but much like the way Ian just described his Edge of the Earth campaigns, that's just Arkham for me, where I lose track of a campaign and then I forget what I was doing and I lose all desire to keep going with it. That's literally how I've been playing Arkham since like Carcosa. So that Roland Akachi campaign, I tore those decks apart because the next time I sat down and looked at them, I was like, I don't want to play these anymore. So I'm currently thinking about starting my second Edge of the Earth campaign, throwing around ideas for that. But I was contacted by Big Foam Loaf, a.k.a. Daniel, a friend of the show. Yeah, and who I run RPGs for every other Thursday night. And he asked me if I would join him and Michael, Wandering Took, on their Twitch stream on Monday night and play Murder at the Excelsior Hotel with them. And I said, I would love to do that. And so that's what we did. They're doing it as...
Why was I not pinged about this on Discord, Nicholas?
I mentioned it on Discord, like, when they invited me. But then I was like, I didn't get to my computer till minutes before they started anyway, because I worked. So I didn't have the opportunity to, send out pings or anything. But...
Cool.
The video's out there.
Yeah, I was about to say, I'll have to go grab that VOD.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. They were playing it as the second scenario in their own Edge of the Earth campaign. And so they had 7 experience each. And so I took my Joe deck that I've been tossing around for Iron Man. I made a couple of minor changes to it to accommodate Excelsior. And then I spent 7 experience. And it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun playing that with other people again, because it's been a long time. Like, I played Excelsior here and there, at my home table, but I haven't played it with other people in quite a while, so that was a lot of fun. And I got hit by noxious fumes 3 times.
Good.
In that scenario. And I took it like a champ every time. I did not complain. And it did not cause any of us to die, so I think I had probably the ideal experience in that scenario. But no, it was really fun. But that's really the only Arkham that I've played recently, other than working on our scenario and also working on refining and editing and revising my Iron Man decks over and over and over and over and over again. That's really all the Arkham I've been doing.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Sean?
It's a little bit more than me. Really, the only Arkham I've gotten in since the last time I recorded even, was just doing some play testing on our very special scenario. So I can't really talk a whole lot about that at this juncture, but I do want to bring us back around to the fact that if you haven't yet tried Parallel Agnes, I'd recommend you do so. The Edge of the Earth box only gave her more toys to play with. She's fantastic, and she did a pretty good job in our scenario. So
I haven't played. The only Parallel I've played has been Roland.
That is unsurprising.
And I played him once, and I was like, "That's cool," and I've never played him again. And it's
I found Roland. It was a lot of mental bandwidth to make sure I was abiding by the rules.
Yeah,
It really is.
which
yeah.
is, I guess is appropriate, but
it really just
I'm
comes
pretty
down
sure
to,
I cheated.
For me, it just comes down to not having the cards like that. Because then I just forget that they exist when I'm going through my investigators and building decks. So
Well,
I think when playing Parallel Roland, you need someone to like sit next to you and monitor your breaking at all times.
And
a minder.
and we call that person the bureau.
Yeah.
You need someone to peer review your
Yeah.
campaign. I think Parallel Roland is either the first or second one, if I'm ranking them, in ones that I'm really excited to build for.
Sure.
The other one is Wendy. Because
Not Skids?
Wendy's really fun.
Wendy's
Skids is
crazy.
cool, but I feel like I dabbled in Parallel Skids, played around a bit, and I'm like, okay, I got this. Like, I felt like I found how I like the deck, and
Right.
I don't think there's anything that's going to be like surprising me. Whereas Parallel Roland, I feel like there's a lot of depth in building there, and you can take it a lot of different ways. Same thing with Parallel Wendy. And I've dabbled in Parallel Daisy. Yeah, I do need to put more time in with Agnes, though.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
Because her whole thing is take a damage when you play a spell event to reduce its cost.
Reduces cost by 2 and shuffle it back into your deck when you're done.
Ooh, that's nice.
Yeah, and then you get her heirloom out, and
I was
then you're
gonna
drawing
say-
your card as well.
I was gonna say that kind of makes the heirloom actually useful.
It's fantastic. It is great in that deck. I am so happy that at this point in Arkham Horror, the card game, there's an Agnes deck that makes me look at. I draw the heirloom, and I'm like, fuck yeah.
Yeah, it only
Now
took
the game
5
begins.
years.
But it's, I mean, it happens when it happens, I guess.
Yeah.
now I'm thinking of, speaking of heirloom and waiting so many years, the Titanic meme. It's been 84 years.
For a
That
minute,
was
I thought you were
beautiful.
doing.
I can't
like,
believe you guys let me do that whole thing.
I wanted to see how far you go. For a minute,
I was
I
waiting
thought
to
you were.
jump in with the voice. Like I was going like, no. Fuck.
I should have more faith that you guys are just like on my team.
I haven't watched Titanic in so long that I actually thought you were doing the Rohan theme for a minute. The solo violin.
Understandable. Anyway. Okay, cool. So that gets us through. We've got a couple of voicemails still in the wings. We're going to skip them this time so we can maximize our player card review situation. So let's move on to a quick patron update. Ian?
So first off, thanks to our board members. That's Chris B, Chris H, and Chris M, and Chris U, our conglomeration of Chris's. Morton, Jared, Ian, Kyle, Philip, Patrick, Billio, Jesse, Chad, and Robert. Thanks so much for your huge, crucial support of the podcast. And also a special shout out to a random patron this time around goes to Richard Gomez. Thanks, Richard, for listening and supporting and letting us do all the things that we do. Make sure you check out mythosmerch.com. See if there's anything that tickles your fancy. See if there's anything you feel okay carrying or wearing out in public. And send us some pictures because we'd love to see it. We love seeing our swag out in the wild. And I think that's about it for now for patron stuff.
No news this time around, right?
Correct.
It's been a while, boys. We're getting a little dry up here. I don't know about you, and I'm not even one who's like normally slobbering after previews.
Well, good thing we waited for our card reviews this long. 'Cause
Yeah,
we still
I
are
know,
going
right?
through the previous content.
Yeah, it's just a new world, I think, like a new era of not just Arkham but FFG. Like I remember the old days of FFG where there'd be like an article every day almost.
Yeah.
I feel like
The engagement
not
was very good.
yeah, not necessarily for any particular game, but I just mean for some game that they supported, there'd be an article, and they'd have like 3 to 4 articles per week, and now it's like a few a month. Maybe?
It's like 2 a month.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Like back in the glory days of FFG, I was in the habit of just literally going to that site. I never bothered with an RSS. I never automated it. I'm like, I will just like check that website multiple times a day because, once you get into one LCG, the others are just soon to follow. Anyway, articles. Scott, you've got a rules thing, and it makes me very happy.
Yes!
So go.
Okay, so I figured this one is such a niche rule, but I think what it does is it's a really good, I don't want to say a lesson, more of a reminder of, there are certain words on cards that are very
Loaded.
heavily weighted in FFG, right? Like so we're going to be talking about the word then, and anyone who's played LCGs knows that then is one of those super heavyweight words like must or whatever. So I'm going to go over then really quickly, and then I'm going to bring the example card that you'll all love. So basically then, I'm going to read a little bit from the rules reference. We're all on the same page. If an effect of an ability includes the word then, the text preceding the word then must be successfully resolved in full, that's key, in full, before the remainder of the effect described after the word then can be resolved. Simple enough?
Mm-hmm.
So everything before then has to resolve in full. Okay? The stuff after then also has timing priority all over everything else in the game. So if an effect says draw an encounter card, then take a horror, and you have something down or an event that's fast or whatever that says after you draw an encounter card, reaction, like do this thing, because it says then happens first, you take that horror, and then you could play your reaction.
Right.
That's just a side note. So one key part of this rule, I'm going to read the last blip, and this is from the rules reference guide on the FFG website. If you just go read the rules reference thing for then, it's a single paragraph, you'll get this all. But if the pre-then aspect of an effect does not successfully resolve in full, the post-then aspect does not resolve. So, we are going to take a look at Crisis of Identity, which is one of Lola's two weaknesses. The other one is also Crisis of Identity.
But we're going to look at the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're looking at the first one, not the second one. 'Cause,
Right,
you know,
right.
Yeah. I mean, we can look at them both, but
We'll cover the second one in a future episode.
yeah. So, Revelation. Discard all cards you control of your current role. Then, discard the top card of your deck, switch your role to that class of the discarded card. If it's weakness, you switch to neutral. So, let's say you have a permanent that's, I don't know, Shrewd Analysis. Although I don't know if Lola would really want to take that, but let's say Shrewd Analysis. You draw Crisis of Identity. You discard all cards of your current role, which is Seeker. Permanent says it cannot be discarded. Cannot is absolute. So, Revelation, discard all cards you control of your current role. I can't because I have a permanent, but you've discarded everything else because you must do as much as you can, right? That didn't fully resolve. So now you don't have to discard a top card off of your deck. You don't have to switch your role to the class of that discarded card. Because, yeah, there you go. So if you have a permanent of a class and you are in that class or in that role as Lola, her weakness like half doesn't fire.
So now everybody's Lola strategy should be with the first experience you get, buy a permanent of whatever your main or what, buy a permanent of each class.
Oh, I'm taking into thick of it for that specifically. Every time.
Well, I mean, Shrewd Analysis is start at the beginning, right? Lola also has access to all of the permanents.
Oh yeah, you can grab them for 0 because there's a permanent in each class that's 0.
Yeah, there's quite a few level 0 permanents now.
There's a fair few level 1s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there's
So-
zeros, John.
Even like a very common Lola one though is oh goodness, no.
Streetwise?
The Seeker one that makes you draw an extra card at the beginning of the game. Studios?
Oh, Studios.
Oh yeah.
Studios.
Or combined with Another Day, Another Dollar, right? Like there's
Yep.
all these permanents. Now, I will say about the permanents, all the level 0 ones that came out in Edge of the Earth, I haven't looked through which ones can actually work with Lola, because some of them are before the game starts or after the game starts. You have to be in a certain role or whatever. And as Big Kahuna says, you still do the worst part of Crisis of Identity.
Yes, that's
which
true.
is discarding everything of your current role, except for your permanents. But I feel like this is just one of those neat little things. So, oh, Banjo Thulu is telling me that they all work. So
Wonderful. Yay, Lola buff.
because I believe a lot of them are forced. But yeah, slight Lola buff. So
I mean, small buff, but I'll take what I can get.
yeah. So that is my little thing on rules. I think the reason I picked this is because one, I find that it's funny and janky, but then is on so many cards, especially encounter cards, that just remember whenever you see then, like just stop, full stop, and read that card carefully, because it may not work the way you're thinking.
It's literally an if-then statement.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is cool.
In full. That's the key part. In full. Every single part of it has to happen. So, there you go.
Awesome. The more you know. All right.
Star.
All right, boys. So where did we leave off last time?
Sean, read Ethereal Slip.
I'd be glad to. Sorry, Link. Scrolling.
You don't have this memorized yet?
I mean, okay, so let's see how well I do. All right, so we're talking level 0?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm going to do this without looking. Ethereal Slip is a level 0, 2-cost rogue and mystic multi-class card. It has a willpower and an agility icon. It has spell and I'm going to guess trick traded.
Correct.
Choose an enemy up to 2 locations away from you and switch locations with that enemy.
You were
Not elite enemy.
Okay.
Yes.
Surprisingly accurate. You've played this card.
And
I have played this card.
And Network wants you to do the flavor text.
Oh, the flavor text. Oh shit! And now for my next trick.
Oh my God, Sean!
Is it really?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so good.
So
It's
Sean,
so
what do you think of Ethereal Slip besides having it absolutely memorized?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
I hate this card.
Sean,
It's terrible.
you didn't tell us if it was an asset, event, or skill, so I'm
Oh,
gonna fail
damn.
you. Yeah,
I must.
all or nothing.
It's obviously a permanent.
Okay, so like some of the coolest art in the box, first of all, and that's gonna get me
Is it?
to put my eyes on the card more than anything, isn't it?
I guess.
Look at Dexter.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, let me actually get this pulled up. Is it as cool as I remember?
He's got like a spectral dragon behind him that I'm just now realizing.
Yeah.
I didn't see that the first time.
He's got like special magic armor.
It fits really well with the framing of the card.
I think it's a very cool looking card. Okay, so my thoughts on this one. I think this is cool. It's very scenario specific. The ability, I don't know. I feel like this is really good in evadey solo investigators. And that's probably its best place. Because if you're doing the slip around the map, get things done while your enemies are trying to chase you type thing, then having this trick in your back pocket can be amazing at the right time. Beyond that, though, because I've put this in Wendy up at this point, and I did put a copy of this in Agnes in in my playtest of our scenario, and it was good there too for another reason. But yeah, I don't know. It's super solid when it's solid. It's got decent icons. It's got good traits. I don't know.
Yeah. Rita can take it, right?
Yes.
Rita can take it.
I tend to agree with you, Sean. This one kind of occupies a similar space in my mind as On the Trail, except, oddly enough, this one to me seems a little more, just a little more broadly useful than On the Trail. And this is level 0, and On the Trail is level 2, or level 1. Sorry. But yeah, it kind of fits that same. And I don't know what about it, but yeah, it is. It's nicher than I want it to be, but at the same time, I guess I'm kind of okay with that.
Well, and it's interesting because they're I think you're right. They are very similar to each other because they require you to like position around enemies for something other than defeating those enemies, right? Which is unusual. But yeah, I think in the right deck, in the right circumstance, like this is a one of in pretty much any solo deck that can take it for me. As Network points out, it's fantastic in Innsmouth when you're like zipping around deep ones and you'd really prefer not to ever engage them.
There's a question
Scott,
about...
you're going to tell me some crazy rules thing now, aren't you?
Well, I mean, so we're discussing in the chat about... No, it's not Vanishing. What's the one where there's all the barriers?
Into deep.
yeah,
Into deep. If you can swap locations, even if there's barriers in the way, I'm leaning that you can, because you're not moving through the barriers. You're literally you're swapping. So
That seems good.
yeah, Amarthus says you cannot pass through the barriers. I don't think you are. Like, you're not moving to that location and then moving the enemy to the another location.
Right.
You're just swapping.
Yeah.
So
You're
I
slipping.
think it bypasses the barriers.
Yeah. You're
I mean,
ethereal
it
jaunting.
makes sense. You're night crawlering.
Well, this is also be really good in the next scenario where you're on the island, and if there's an enemy on one of the other islands, if it's 2 locations away.
Oh, yeah, because open water. Oh, ooh, okay. Well, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to remember that for Iron Man Innsmouth.
Yeah, because you can swap
That's
locations
good.
across islands as long as you're 2. Yeah, wow.
That's solid.
Mm-hmm.
That's super solid. And then you just like banish them to the island that you're already done with.
Yeah. Toodaloo.
Now, come to think of it, it's not so much like Nightcrawler. We're more like Weeping Angels from Doctor Who, just like grabbing monsters and leaving them in weird places.
God, those things are creepy.
Like
That's what they do?
that is what they do, and then they feed on the potential energy, where they took you from what you were doing.
Huh.
Because in Doctor Who we always have to have like the explanation that definitely brings us like one step beyond science, and that's what makes it charming.
So now that we're talking about
Doctor Who.
no,
Oh.
the Into Deep and the next scenario with the islands. God, I'm terrible. I can't remember scenario names until I
Devil-
see Iron
Devil
Man.
Reef.
Devil Reef.
Devil Reef.
I'm gonna read Ethereal Slip level 2.
Yeah.
Because we're on Ethereal Slip. So, level 2 basically goes down to 1 cost. It's an event, Sean, by the way. Level 2, still Mystic, still Rogue. A willpower, 2 agility icons. Spell and trick trade. Choose a non-elite enemy at any revealed location. Swap places with that enemy.
Mm-hmm.
So this one seems really good in Devil Reef.
Oh, yeah.
Because that's just... Or Doom of Vetsley. Yes. Thank you, Network. Man,
Oh, yeah.
there's some really... there are some really spicy options for this card. I think this is super scenario dependent, whereas level 0, I think it's like a neat utility card. This one is... I don't want to call it a game breaker, because I don't think it's a game breaker, but man, it can silver bullet
It's
couple
really good.
parts of scenarios.
It's like banish plus Luke's ability, kinda.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten quite a bit of use out of both the level 0 and the upgraded one. I do like me some Trixie cards, and I think at first I included it thinking like, how many times will it actually come up? But I've been surprised, especially playing some of the two-handed campaigns, how many times you can like kind of get the enemy where it needs to be between the 2 investigators. And then also like that swap is surprisingly useful too when there's an enemy between you and where you need to go, and now suddenly it's behind you and you can just go forward. So you're just like,
Oop, just
"Excuse
gotta
me,
slip on
excuse me,"
by. Yep.
to slide right by. So yeah. So it's one of those where like you're not always gonna need it, but man, you're really happy those times you do have like that magic button to get you out of a jam.
Oh, I love these in the House Always Wins too, because first of all, like Peter Clover could potentially be made easier by this because he spawns with an enemy, right? And then also I just love the idea of like once the monsters hop into the scenario, like just swapping places with Gangster and letting the enemy eat him.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Well, any enemies that you're engaged with would still swap with you, wouldn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's true. You'd have to
yeah.
evade 1st. Which, like I said, for investigators that are looking at this, they're probably the more slippery ones anyway.
That's
so
true.
I do like to, and I mean this is gonna be one of those things. It's like all these rogue events are better with Daddy Chuck, but with down the rabbit hole, like the fact that there's a level 0 that's pretty good, and then there's the level 2 that's like anywhere where you're gonna use the level 0, level 2 is just
Yeah.
yeah,
available,
for the
and it's
extra
better.
icon and the lowered cost, like that's
yeah.
like, and then the range is just gravy.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go through this next one faster, except not because it's also a really good card. Ian,
Or we're on Blur, right? All right.
Blur.
Woohoo! Blur is a level 1 asset, 2 cost, agility icon, spell traits, and this is a Mystic and Rogue asset. Uses 3 charges. Action: if Blur has charges remaining, evade. For this evasion attempt, you may use Will instead of agility, and you get +1 skill value. If you succeed, spend 1 charge, and you may take an additional action this turn. If you succeed by 0, take 1 damage. I am a man who likes his extra actions, so and I like evading too.
And I was about to say, and are you not also a man who does love to evade?
Yes. So this is 2 things I love in 1 card.
This is like, do you want to be Finn for 3 turns?
Which sometimes is all it takes.
Yeah.
I think this is a great card.
Yes.
It also, like some of the similar in this suite where you can choose to use the Will instead of agility. So both Will and agility investigators can get use out of this.
And I was on that other podcast. Hey Frank, hey Peter. And we talked about this card a lot. And I will always, and I'm repeating myself is why I mention it. I will always advocate for extra actions in conjunction with evasion. That is one of the best places to have an extra action, because whatever reason you're evading, you need time to do something else because you're evading.
Right.
I thought there was probably a more profound way to say that, but y'all are with me.
Well, I think too, like if you think of it as there are only so many basic actions in the game, right? Like investigate, fight, move, draw, whatever. This is the game's way, or I guess Maxine's way, or the team's way of action compression within agility. So same thing as Mists, where you're going to get that extra action. It's like when you have a card that you discover 2 clues with instead of 1, or any weapon that does bonus damage, right? Like you're essentially getting 2 actions worth of damage with a 45 for 1 action. This to me is the same. It's like you're evading, but you're also still getting the action, so it feels like it's action compression to me.
Well, it is,
Does
and
that make sense?
this is because we've gotten cards that are after you evade an enemy, if you're successful or whatever, blah blah blah, you can evade an additional enemy. But those I find are much more situational than just did you evade? Refund the action. Like yeah. So this is the superior version of that. I would go to say is what I'm saying.
Or Mists where you move, but I mean if you evade, you're probably planning on moving that turn. So I mean,
right.
It gives you an action that you're most likely going to use anyways. So yeah, but you're totally right, Nick, that something like, oh my goodness, the core set survival skill,
survival instinct,
yeah,
is that the name of it?
That one is so niche, right?
I don't think I've ever used it. I've included it. I don't think I've ever used it.
I've used it in the Devour Below because you can just evade everything at the in the forest. But
I also appreciate that this card gives Leo, Gloria, and Norman a very good way to hit evade tests.
I love this in Norman. It's so good.
Yeah.
1 cost off the top of your deck.
So the interesting thing, and I think it was a really apt comparison to compare this to Mists. What do you think sets those 2 apart? I mean, obviously the experience. Do you think it's just always like if you're running Mists and you can afford the XP, like Mist turns into Blur because it's more flexible?
Well, I mean,
Mist has one more charge.
Upgraded Mists also has the will boost. So
you could compare this to level 0 too. I mean, it's only level 1.
Oh, sure. Why did I think this was level 2? I don't know. That's weird.
We're gonna go to 4.
That's true. I don't have an answer for you.
I mean, I do, going back to Sean's point, and as a Finn main, I do quite enjoy evade paired with getting an extra action. I do agree that that's like every successful evade strategy is usually based around having extra actions. The other thing I'll say is I think 2 is quite a good price for this in terms of resources, so that actually it does make it pretty easy to get out.
Fantastic. Well, I mean, we should probably just move on to the big one then, right?
Let's do it.
Where are we at, Nick?
Sure. Blur is a level 4 rogue mystic asset that costs 2 resources, has a will and an agility icon. It's spell traded, uses 4 charges. Action: if Blur has charges remaining, evade. For this evasion attempt, you may use blah blah blah. It's all the same. +2 skill value. If you succeed, spend 1 or 2 charges, and you may take that many additional actions this turn. If you succeed by 0, take 2 damage. So everything's pumped up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing we're
Yeah.
not used to at this point, right?
MJ, Jeremy, please.
If you're playing purple,
We're paying XP.
even if you're just half purple, as it turns out.
Yeah.
It's the boom bust economy of mystics, man.
For real. So, okay, do you think that the extra charge and the ability to potentially spend up to 2 actions to burst actions more out of this is worth 3 extra XP for this? And the 2 damage?
Yes. Because the will or the skill boost is going to mitigate that succeed by 0. It's not going to eliminate it, but it's going to mitigate it.
Sure.
And this is a net gain of an action. This isn't just replacing the one you spent on evasion. This is like it's got quick thinking packaged into it. This is so good. I think if you're already doing Blur level 1, there's no reason not to upgrade it to Blur level, what is this, 4? Yeah, totally. Totally.
That 2 damage scares the crap out of me in an evade build, though. Because, like, if you take that once, then probably, I don't know, I feel like I'd be on my heels for a minute in most scenarios.
Run token filtering then, and run clarity of body, or whatever the hell that one's called. Like, there are things, but I agree it's scary, but I think this is I think that's the whole reason you play Mystic, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Just put on your cloak of night or whatever it is.
But look, when I'm playing a cowardly build, I want to play it cowardly. I don't want to stand up and take damage from my own cards.
I'm with you, Sean. I'm not sure because like we're talking about if you're gonna play this. I mean, like let's assume you're putting 2 in the deck because I think most cards you're gonna play 2 of if you want it. So we're looking at 6 XP to get an additional charge and a +1 skill value. With a little bit more risk, but you can
+2.
You know, yeah,
it's +2 skill
+2.
value.
Doesn't the original do?
Oh, the original doesn't do any. I don't think. Does it?
No. Yeah,
it's a +1.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
Never mind.
So you're getting a +1 skill value and an extra charge, and the ability to spend 1 or 2 charges. I think for 6 XP, I'd rather buy something else and make more cards in my deck better than concentrate so much on Blur.
Except in your aforementioned down the rabbit hole build, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, if you're playing down the rabbit hole, then
you're up a crick, as it turns out.
Yeah, then you're paying 4 XP for it instead of 6. I could see that. I don't think. I think for the most part, I'd rather spend 6 XP elsewhere because the level 1 one is more than good enough.
Ian,
to do what I want to do.
Ian, you're gonna side with me, right?
Oh
no!
It's
2 extra actions, and you choose. Like you get to turn it on and off.
That's true. I think it's just it's a lot of XP though compared to.
It's only 1 more action than the level 1.
It's
though.
I think
actions are huge.
I think for most
but
builds,
6 XP for an action.
I think for most builds the level 1 is sufficient, but there might be some builds that are really like Blur centric and maybe built around putting extra charges on it, and then maybe that would be the situation for Blur 4. But I think for any investigator who's taking Blur as more of just like a utility play, then I think Blur 1 is probably good enough.
I'm trying to think. There must be something with this and Ace in the Hole and something like I want to say Will to Survive, but I don't think you can fit those in the same deck because that's a level 3 Survivor, and this is level 4 Mystic Rogue. But something along those lines, or something with Rogue where you're gonna take like a 14 action turn and this is just one way to fuel it. You know, you have both of these out, and you evade 4 enemies, and now you have 8 extra actions that turn because you spent 2 charges each time, right? Like,
Yeah.
like I mean, maybe this is something.
And of
I've
course,
tested
you're
this a few times.
committing quick thinking to the skill test. You start
Yeah.
with Blur, so you're getting 3 actions.
This would change how many times skids can make it around the loop of Carnival. Like this goes in there, right? So, yeah.
All right. Still a good
Yeah.
card though, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
Yes.
it's
It's great.
fine.
Yeah, it's a fantastic card. I just don't know, because Blur 1 exists, if I really need Blur 4.
But
It's gonna be Shortcut Gate 2.0, Scott. You know it.
I know.
also,
All the blur stands.
as the final rebuttal, there's so many ways to get experience now, especially in Mystic. Like, there's Down the Rabbit Hole, there's Arcane, whatever the permanent Arcane one that gives you trauma.
Research.
There's so many arcane blank cards.
And there's in the
Arkham.
thick of it, like those
Yeah.
3, you're taking 4 trauma, but you are cutting down the experience cost of your spells by so much. And if you're starting with that trauma, then you know that you know what I mean. Like you're doing it at deck creation, so you can build to deal with that trauma.
You're just remember when we were so scared about TFA and all the quote unquote trauma it hands
Oh my
out?
God.
It's
Oh
like-
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
it's like 1 or 2, and here's Nick. Like, you just start with 4 trauma, and you're fine.
Oh my god. Yeah, that's the thing, man. We were so scared of that trauma, but then we actually went to the jungle, and it's like I'd be more scared of getting hit by a branch. In the
Yeah.
jungle.
Well, the whole community came out the other side, and we're like, you know, maybe trauma's not as scary as we thought.
Guys, we found another resource.
Bleed it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move it on. Hit Me is a level 0 event. It is 1 cost. It has an agility icon. It is a rogue and survivor event. Sorry, I missed that in sequence there. It is fortune and gambit traded. Fast, play after you reveal a chaos token during a skill test. Reveal an additional chaos token, switching its minus to a plus. If that token is a skull token, you automatically fail.
Terrible gym card.
It's really bad.
Yeah.
It's really bad. Ian was asking for, yeah, what do people put in gym cards?
To take that
It's
as part
definitely
of my
hit me.
Dunwich block.
You know what's funny though? That this is actually great with the Winchester.
Oh, yeah, it is.
Because
It's
it
an
makes
automatic
Winchester-
proc.
Interesting.
Just-
Ooh, I like that. I like that.
Now, I mean,
Okay.
if you're just drawing from the bag and not filtering, like, you've got a pretty good chance of not drawing a
Right.
skull token. So,
And
I mean, I'm joking about the
and
gym
likely
part,
if
so.
you're triggering this, it's because the first token was bad enough that like yeah,
that's
so
fair,
automatically failing might not be that big a deal unless it's one of those things that cares about how much you fail by. But yeah, I mean, the point is you can choose when to trigger this. So
It's kind of like lucky that you can goose even when you're not failing, because I think the brilliant part of the dual class design of this is it's like lucky, like survivor, but also it's kind of like daring maneuver in rogue, where if you're about to succeed a test but you want to push it higher, it's a decent way to do that. So it's got kind of a cool dual purpose that way.
Is this
It's got the rake clause at the bottom, right? So you can step on a rake.
Yep, exactly.
Is this one of the few cards that, because there's a lot of times that we see cards that manipulate the bag or manipulate your test result or whatever, and we're like, this one, it gets worse in higher difficulties. Is this one that gets better in higher difficulties?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you could potentially be drawing a +8.
Well, and there's no +1.
There's no
So-
+1s. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
So you're automatically swapping a good for a bad, or a bad for a good, rather. Yeah, that's...
Now, does Fortune or Gambit get this card anything?
Fortune prevents it from going in Rex,
Yeah, okay.
and
I
Gambit
know
does
it's-
nothing.
It's targeted by one of the triple class cards that lets you pay for things, I'm
Right,
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of doing a similar thing to what Lucky does. I have played this card, FYI. I played a single copy of this card in an Underworld support Is that the Rogue one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Bob deck. And
Weird.
it was fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I abandoned that deck. It didn't work like I wanted it to. But this card was fine. I think only one time through the 4 scenarios I played on that campaign before I gave up on it did I draw a skull, and that certainly felt bad. But it's all right for what it's doing.
I could see this in a Winnie deck. I feel like that is the feel of this card is it's Winnie. Because just like, hey, let's go bug ass wild with committing things and trying to blow this
I mean, the only way to
Mhm.
play Winnie is YOLO, so like this is the kind of card that
Yeah.
should go in there. I have yet to try this one. I do want to try it. Sometimes it's hard psychologically to find space for these cards that just affect like one test.
Yeah.
But I guess Lucky is that kind of card, but yeah, everyone including me loves Lucky, but some of these other ones, because they're not quite as straightforward, like Lucky, you know what you're getting. This one is more of a gamble, obviously.
It's a gambit, you might say. Relying on your fortune.
Sure is.
And but I think that's important for the card that it purports to be.
Yes.
I think that's a very key difference, because Lucky's, you're only ever going to play it when you definitely will then pass that test. Whereas this, there's more space.
Who the hell knows? Yeah.
There are indeed rake teeth on the bottom.
This
of
is
the card.
also a great card if you're taking a test uphill, meaning like you're way down on a test and you're just like trying, which Arkham players, we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to be taking tests at least 2 up. But I know I have been in plenty of situations where I'm like, this is a Hail Mary test if I can get like a +1 or something. But this might be one of those Hail Mary cards where you're like, okay, let me try to get a +3 or +4. I don't think that's a good enough reason to put a card in your deck, but it's interesting.
Hey, wait a minute.
Hail Mary,
What
full
if
of
you're
grace.
playing?
Let the next card be a fucking jack.
So, I was trying to fit this into my Son of a Gun York deck to make another way besides the blessings to use to get a positive modifier for the Winchester. But what if you're playing a cursed deck? This puts a lot of +2s in the bag.
That's interesting.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you still have to draw another token after that.
But you just turned it into a bless.
Turn it into a bless unless you're targeting curses, then it's still a curse. Yeah, no, that is interesting. I will say that my biggest regret with this card is that it has no interaction with blackjack. Or 21 or bust, excuse me, 21 or bust.
21 or
Oh,
bust.
yeah.
I call it blackjack because there is no other card called blackjack. That is the only card that's blackjack.
Yes.
That's true.
Yep.
And it's not even blackjack. I mean, come on.
Right.
All right. I am reading Unscrupulous Loan. It is a rogue and survivor card. It is a 0-cost asset, level 3, no icons, and is a pact. Limit 1 per investigator, cannot leave play. Reaction: after you play Unscrupulous Loan, gain 10 resources. Forced: when the game ends or you are eliminated, if you have fewer than 10 resources in your resource pool, exile Unscrupulous Loan. Really good in standalone. Because there's no consequence. This is a level 3 emergency cache that gets you 10 resources instead of 4. So
I've never played it because I don't know. I just have. I mean, the only downside is that you exile it, but I guess it's a 3 experience card, so that does kind of suck. But at least it's not like dealing trauma or anything.
And you don't have this in your Jenny deck, right? Your Black Fan.
Yeah, I don't.
Sophist
It'd be great for it. I was just tight on XP. Maybe there's a way to fit it in there, but yeah, I think that kind of build, which that Jenny is really a classic like Smaug type build. This would fit into those type of decks where you're planning on ending with 10 resources or more.
I'll tell you where I put this. I put this in my Underworld support parallel skids. That's running well connected, and basically you just commit well connected to that skids test, and like just windmill slamming this down early in the game, getting yourself up to 10 resources, and you never ever dip down back below it. It's amazing. Like no one in the game that I've played has been as good as turning money into more money than Parallel Skids. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's neat. I think, like you said, Nick, the only downside is you exile it. And you know what? If you're playing Survivor and you're doing that exile build with
Deja Vu,
like, okay,
sure,
all right.
Then it's just, if this is the only one you exile, then you're just get it back.
Yeah,
it's quiche 10.
Maybe 1 XP with Deja Vu.
Deja Vu reduces 3 experience from cards you exile,
but it's individual cards, right?
Yes.
Oh, is it? 3. Okay.
Yeah.
It knocks 1 off the first 3.
Well, okay then. It's not free.
So it'd be 2 XP.
But that's still not.
It still makes it better.
If you really need the 10 resource bump, yeah.
Is limit 1 per investigator a deck limit or an in-play limit?
In play.
Okay, so you can rock 2 of these.
Yeah, because if you say limit 1 per deck, if it was
there, it is. Yep. Okay, that's what I was missing. Cool. I mean, what a good way to goose the throttle.
Hey, you see how it says cannot leave play? If you're playing Lenny and you draw, then you can't discard this.
Yep.
And yeah, there you go.
My God.
Yep. Full circle. We got there.
All right.
What a precious little memento from earlier in the show.
I think we're Ian.
Okay, so precious memento from a former life is a rogue survivor asset, level 4, costs 3, 2 wild icons. Item, charm, #blessed. Limit 1 precious memento from a former life per deck. Reaction, after you fail a skill test by 2 or more, exhaust precious memento, heal 1 damage from it. After you succeed at a skill test by 2 or more, exhaust precious memento, heal 1 horror from it. And it has 3 health and 3 sanity, and takes up the accessory slot. So it's kind of like a soak, a self-healing soak, depending on, triggering on both failing or succeeding, which you're probably going to do a little bit of both in most games of Arkham.
Yeah. Ian, given the differences between the two, do you want to just like push through to the one from Future Life too?
Sure. Yep.
I feel like
so Future Life, same cost, same XP, same everything pretty much. Except for now, after you fail a skill test by 2 or more, you're going to heal a horror, and after you succeed at a skill test by 2 or more, you're going to heal 1 damage. So it's essentially, unless I'm missing something else, it's just swapping like the damage and horror healing, and which one they trigger off of failing or succeeding.
This one wrinkles my brain
Yeah.
as to which one I want to look at.
Yeah.
I'm not smart enough to suss out which one of these I actually want in any given deck, I don't think.
I've never played them. These are the cards that I like start to read them and I'm like, fuck this, and I move on to something else. I like the idea of them, I guess, but like, I don't know. They're like you said, they're so weirdly specific, and the fact that they both do the exact same thing, just a mirror of each other, it just adds another layer of decision making that I'm not prepared to. I already second guess every single decision I make when I make a deck, so this would just amplify that if I included this. So I'll try them one day, but it is not to
I too have not tried these. I think first it's deciding like, is your deck more of kind of succeed by 2, which might be rogue, or a failure based deck, which might be survivor. Not to stereotype, but it's true.
Hashtag not all survivors.
And then once you know which one of these you're probably going to trigger more, then the second decision is like, do you care more about the damage or the horror soak? And then that'll kind of determine which one of these you take. So it's kind of like a 2-point decision process, which is where I think it makes it kind of difficult to pin down.
We need a whole matrix where like
I think, and Network points out too, and this is kind of what I was just thinking about, because I was thinking Winnie, not Preston, but very similar mindset about the Future Life one. Slightly better on horror soak, and he's going to be failing a lot more. And a lot of the cards from like the Mythos, with that 1 in will, you're probably going to be taking a lot of horror. And so for me with Winnie, like, I mean, you're usually trying to like succeed by 1,000,000, so you're going to be succeeding a lot, like a skill by 2 or more, and so you're going to be healing horror from this constantly. And so this to me is like one of those, like when we talk about a one will investigator, it's like you have to just be aware of what you're going into, and this is one way, depending on the campaign, to mitigate that one will. So, and I mean, it still has soak, right? And you can throw some damage on there, and when you fail your will test by 2 or more, which you will, you can then heal the damage from it as well. So I feel like the former life one, if you have a one will investigator, this is the one. This is the one you're looking at. And I'm honestly not sure about the future life one.
Yeah, I'd be curious to like play and tally how many times they trigger. I mean, I feel like you'll get decent value from these. Like, no matter what you pick, you're gonna be doing some failing and some succeeding, both by 2 or more. It's just be a question of how much. I think the hard part, when I have thought about this one, as it always is the accessory slot. Like these days, like in playing a lot of Rogue, especially, that accessory slot is used by a lot of high XP items.
That's the thing. The accessory slot is not an empty slot in Rogue, and Survivor.
And Survivor, Survivor's got some too.
Yeah,
for sure.
But like Rogue, it's a competitive slot in Rogue.
Yeah.
So it's like, how important is soak to you?
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking like I'd love this in Parallel Agnes, but then she can't. That's not a thing.
What about Calvin for this?
That's what I was thinking, honestly, was Calvin, for like when you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I'm good, I don't need any more damage, and then you got this nice little refillable soak.
And by that point, your stats are high enough that you're probably going to be succeeding by 2 or more pretty often.
Right.
So, I mean, by itself, a card that is 3 cost for 3 and 3 soak, even without an extra ability, that's okay. Not at 4 XP. Like more in a vacuum. So does that ability and the ability to self-sustain make it worth the 4 XP?
I mean, that's what you're paying the experience for, is that.
Yeah.
Because we have cheaper cards with almost that level of soak. Not quite, but you know what I mean? Like, we have level 0 cards that are 3 and 0, or even
Christopher
2 and
Malison
2.
exists.
Yeah, exactly. So, not Christopher.
Is he a Christopher?
It's not. It's
No.
William T.
Yeah, William T.
William.
Malison.
Thank you.
Is it
Bill.
William?
Oh, Billy Mal.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, that's what you're paid the experience for, is the fact that it's not only 3 soak, but it's refillable 3 soak. I think that if it were fewer than 3, or if it didn't have a refill for both, you know, like both sanity or horror, it would be way overcosted. But again, it's one of those situations where I read it and I see the cost, and I see the experience and everything, and my brain's like, this all makes sense. I just don't know where to put it, like which investigator to put it in and all that. But I like Calvin. Like when Ian mentioned Calvin, that's kind of where I was leaning to. So that might be a fun include.
Yeah.
I usually run Rabbit's Foot in Calvin just because I know I'm going to be failing early, and you can just grab a lot of your tools.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Relic Hunter is
guess,
a card.
Yeah, and this also, like, I mean, the thing is, though, Rabbit Foot grabs you a few extra cards, but this stops you from losing the scenario.
Yeah.
So,
yep.
Right? Yeah.
It's kind of important.
But then is this just...
So do cards that help you win, Scott.
Yeah. Is this a 30 good card?
Well, you know, you do Rabbit's Foot until you draw this, and then you play this.
You are not wrong, actually, that is...
Right? Yeah. Only in that order, though. You can't go the other... I mean, you could. You could fill up this and not worry about refilling it.
Yeah.
And then...
Well, if you're going to loop your deck and then play down Rabbit's Foot...
Yep.
After you've destroyed this,
yeah. I mean, just treat your relic like it's Leo in his ally slot. Just keep rotating stuff through.
Yeah. It also occurs to me that, you know, in Survivor, scavenging's a thing, and this has 2 wild icons. Like, items that you remember back in the core set only days, one of like the good decks that came out was the one that figured out how to loop Wendy's amulet. With scavenging, and it's just like, well, hey, you have unexpected courage for like 1 test a turn for free. And back then that was very impressive.
Yeah.
Is it as impressive now? Should I regret bringing
now
this
we
up?
have Dream Diary, which does that anyway.
Yeah.
So
not for either of these classes.
Speaking of Calvin cards, though.
Yeah. I think we're to Ian? No, Nick. We're to Nick.
Are we talking the Talisman?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Talisman of Protection is a Mystic Survivor asset, level 0, costs 2 resources, will iconed. Yeah, we're gonna go with that. Item and charm traded. Fast. Play only during your turn. Play Talisman of Protection under the control of any investigator at your location. Reaction: when you are assigned damage and or horror that would defeat you, discard Talisman of Protection, cancel up to 2 of that damage and or horror, and it takes up the arcane slot. An item that takes your arcane slot. Interesting.
Fancy
Yeah.
that. So this is what Calvin puts in the slot that will eventually hold Spirit of Humanity. Is that is that ultimately what's happening?
Yeah, pretty much. Like this goes right beside. Wait, is Spirit of Humanity double arcane? No,
No.
it's single, right? So you have 1 Spirit of Humanity and 1 Talisman of Protection.
Boom.
There you go.
That's good. Also, good to note that this is not a bad way if you don't want to go a spell path with Lily. This is a great way
yes.
in like a Dragon Pole build to fill up those arcane slots. Cheap
Yeah.
and fast. Can't do better.
I
mean,
would
not
also
cheap,
see this.
but-
That's 2 and free, or it's 2 and 0 experience, and it's fast. I mean, that's
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
it's
fast
pretty
is
good.
great.
yeah.
Sean, your talk of Parallel Agnes, I mean,
Oh
you're
yeah.
using so many spell events. Your arcane, 1 arcane slot could be clear for here, so you can really push her on the damage side.
Mm-hmm.
Or original Agnes with horror. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's kind of weird that you can play it under anyone's control at your location. We don't really see that from we see a little bit. No, I guess we don't really see it from Mystic or Survivor. That's
Nope.
very much a guardian
Guardian.
ability. That's interesting that it's in those 2 classes. Is there? But you don't include this card in your deck for that. Like you don't include it going.
I mean, it's basically you're throwing a shield out on someone, and for fast, if someone's really hurting after Mythos, and you've got this in your hand, it's a
Yeah.
cool little support card. I feel like that line is very overlooked for multiplayer.
To me, I take 2 of these in Calvin.
Yeah.
And that's the place I've only tried this in Calvin, and I love having it. Like it makes me feel way more safe.
Yeah.
Like, 5,
Yep.
like 5s across the board. But if I'm sitting around 4s and I've got this, and I've got until the end of timeout, you know what I mean? And I've got lots of soaks, and someone across the board is like hurting, and when you're like, yeah, why not?
Or you could just throw your second one down for you as well, so you have 2 of these in play.
Well, I have Spirit of Humanity in my other arcane slot, but I like
talked
this to
about
me. This to me replaces the Guardian event that costs 2. The guys holding,
Solemn
Delay the
Vow.
inevitable.
Delay the Inevitable.
Oh,
Wait,
yeah.
The upkeep cost one.
I forgot about that. Holy cow.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that one that
I
one
play a singleton. I play a cheeky one of in Diana, and I don't almost never put it anywhere else.
interesting.
You,
Yeah,
Joe, I put it in the hunch deck.
Really? Oh,
you know what you do is slide up to your Mystic friend and play this when they have full arcane slots with like leveled up spells.
this goes in Grifina.
It sure does. It sure does.
Yep, just push it into your opponent's arcane slots.
Yes, your opponent's arcane slots. Oh, another Grifina deck or card. Thank God.
But I think this is a really solid little card.
Yes. For level
what it
0,
asks
yeah.
of you. The arcane slot is a little bit more of an ask in Mystic, so probably a little bit more on the Survivor side. But I mean,
But it's also
Super,
easy
super
to
good.
build a Mystic that doesn't, like, you don't need both your arcane slots always filled. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many tools now in Mystic that that this even still has, I think, a place.
yeah, and the fact that it's fast really means that you can play it down as an emergency release, and like if you need to kick something out of one of your arcane slots, chances are it's okay
Right.
Yeah,
or
you'd
acceptable at least.
You'd rather lose your 6th sense than lose the scenario.
Well, would you though? Well, it's 6 cents.
All right, anyway.
Earthly Serenity
Yep.
is a 2-cost level 1 asset. It is Mystic and Survivor traded. It is a spell. It has a willpower icon and uses 4 charges. Action, test willpower 1. For each point you succeed by, you may spend 1 charge to heal 1 damage or 1 horror from an investigator at your location. If you succeed by 0, lose 1 resource. And it takes up the arcane slot.
So, I mentally grouped this with Brand of Cthulhu and Cthulhu. No, I'm going to call him Cthulhu from now on. And all the divination and all those. I mentally grouped this with those spells where I was like, seems good, don't care, moving on. And then we talked about Brand of Cthulhu, and I realized how good it was, and how good the rest of these spells are. Or rather, that I didn't give them the proper attention. And so this card is now in my Carolyn deck for Iron Man. Wait, I'm sorry. I'm planning to include... Oh, no, I do have it, because I took In the Thick of It. So, yeah. This one's in there. Because if anyone wants to both heal horror and doesn't care about resources, it's Carolyn.
Yeah. Well, and not to mention that with the new weaknesses that we have where you can heal them away.
Yes.
I mean,
Clutch.
why not, right? Especially
Clutch.
in 4-player, like we have a large group of players, 4. I mean, if we get one of those and Carolyn's on the team and has this anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, I appreciate the Goldberry art. Very good Goldberry art.
I mean, she's not blonde. She's not wearing green.
Don't stomp on my
There's
dreams.
no river in sight.
Goldberry hung around with lots of birds of paradise, right?
It's just like Disney princess art, isn't it?
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah.
It's flouncy dressed caster. No, I don't know where I'm going with this. It's good though. It's good art. It's very good.
Yep. Outside of Carolyn, this is middling to me.
Yeah. I think it's probably the weakest of this suite of spells, right?
Man, it's the same thing we're going back to about healing again
Yeah.
and again,
Yeah.
right? Like
You needed to
healing
do
versus
more.
soak, and
Yeah.
it's just not quite.
Like if this was the one that gave you an extra action, like
That'd be
Yeah.
nice.
Should it,
I don't know why
As
I
it is.
cackled so much from that, but
I mean, because it would be great. As it is, it's fine. You're gonna get 4 heals of something off of it.
And you might be able to do that all in one turn. Or
Yeah.
one action heal 4,
yeah.
which is
Yeah, you can go as hard on it as you need to.
Right.
Well, 2 actions because you do have to. It's not an event. That's a key.
You have
part.
to
Or,
play
it's an
it,
asset,
yeah.
so you have to play it and then test. So you could heal.
Which honestly
Mm-hmm.
is probably the best case, like what you want out of it. Traditionally,
Yeah.
like healing assets have not been great and not been very popular because
Right.
they're just action intensive. The difference, like you mentioned, is just that you can do it all at once, and for that reason, like you probably don't want to spend action after action after action healing, because then you might as well be playing one of these other healing assets. So it's really like.
The ones that don't
Yeah,
require
you're
tests.
almost treating this as like a double action healing event, almost equivalent, where you have to spend an action to put it down and then an action to try to get like all the burst at once, something like that.
And what's nice about it though is like for the multiplayer perspective, it is super flexible about where you put it.
Yeah.
You can like Cyclops laser beam healing at someone, or you can like AoE everyone at your location, and everyone gets to heal one of whatever they care about.
Yeah.
And it's all pretty great. And if you're Carolyn, and that's like everyone heals 1 horror and then also gets 1 resource, that's pretty bitchin'.
Well,
It's
I
like
like
your
too
Oprah.
that you get a healing and you get it. Yeah. I also like that if you need to divide it up like 2 and 2, but they're at different locations or something. I mean, if you smash this test and succeed by 8, it's for each point you succeed by, you may spend a charge.
Yeah.
So you don't, like, you're not committing to, you're not playing that game of like, oh, I don't want to commit too much because if I smash this test, then I have to spend them all. Like, you can divvy it out as you see fit.
And one thing that I might have said about this card in an alternate universe is, well, there's a test. Okay, if I fail, then I'm like losing charges to hit this test.
Right.
But again, like this entire suite, you're only spending those charges when you succeed, so you will get 4 heals out of this,
Yeah.
which is good.
I'm just gonna read the level 4 card because it's
Yeah,
very
do it.
Yeah. So you gain an extra willpower icon. You get 6 charges instead of 4, and the test is 0 willpower instead of 1. But if you succeed by 0, you lose 2 resources instead of 1.
I don't see pushing to this one unless I'm
No.
playing like 4-player support.
So yeah, so I'll push to this one in Dream Eater's Iron Man. But yeah, I probably
Will
wouldn't.
you?
I mean, well, I guess it depends on how much I'm needed for cluing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like I've kind of, I don't want to say come to a conclusion, but I've been thinking more and more about how I spend XP on upgrading decks, and I was actually talking to Casey about this with in the thick of it, and how it's like, well, do you spend 3 XP on one card, like, you know, charisma or something like that, or do you grab 3 like level 1 cards?
Right.
And his idea was that you spread it out more because it elevates more cards in your deck. I think charisma is a bad example because if you're packing 2 allies, charisma is actually something incredible to start with. But a level 3 event or an asset or something, like, unless that is a key part of your deck, I kind of like spreading out my experience across my whole deck. And so is Earthly Serenity or the Blur, am I better off using that 6 XP somewhere else to make 6 cards better or 4 cards better as opposed to this one?
I mean,
and
yes.
I don't think this is a build around though, right? Like, and I can
It's
understand when
not.
you want to build around something, but I don't think this is build aroundable.
But at the same time, like, you're not going to do that every time you get experience. Like, you're not going to, like, especially in Dream Eaters, I'm going to be like, sweet, 10 experience, 10 level 1 cards, let's go. You know what I mean?
No.
Like, so.
But 5 level 2 cards?
Maybe.
You know, like,
5 is terrible, though. Why would you do 5? If it's 4,
Right.
like, no, We're not,
Because
we're not
that's
getting
not
into
how
that,
math
Scott.
But I mean, like, okay, 10 XP. I'm gonna spend 6 of it on healing, on upgrading a card ever so slightly that I already have a card that does what it does.
I mean, hey, okay, let me ask you this: in the Dream Eaters Iron Man, whatever side I'm running, Carolyn, Waking or whatever, are you guys all running in the thick of it?
Sure can.
I mean, now we are.
Right. Yeah. Well, there you go. Now I've got
Take a bunch of horror.
If you're all running in the thick of it, then I got to step up my healing game.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
You
all
know
right.
what else is sneaky about this one?
What's sneaky?
So in the other spells of this suite, the upgraded version increases your skill value.
Oh, and this.
And in the upgraded version of this one, it decreases the difficulty of the test. And you know what's really sneaky about that is that this has a
can't
penalty
fail.
when you fail by 0. So if you get dragged under 0 by anything other than the tentacle token, you still succeed, but you're losing 2 resources.
but
Yeah.
That's weird.
But
That's weird, isn't it?
losing resources is the blandest of the 4. Like, it's not as bad as discarding cards generally. It's definitely not as
Sure.
bad as taking damage or horror. So
No, I agree. That I just it's
that is
weird.
interesting to point out, though. I didn't even think about that.
So here's the other thing, though, Nick, with taking this in Carolyn, is you still have to, like, wallop a willpower test.
Sure.
Because she starts with 3, right?
Yeah.
She can take a lot of willpower boosts. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, like, you're probably playing Peter.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pete and St. Hubert's Key.
Okay. You're 5 to 1 or 5 to 0.
Yeah, she's more. I'm definitely running her more willpower than anything else. I'm getting some intellect stuff out of her too, but yeah, no, I agree. It's this one is it seems enticing until you think about exactly how much experience it costs and what you're getting out of it.
Sean, I think your point is very valid, though, about, like, succeeding by 0, right? You draw that -5, and
Yeah.
you're like, oh.
Feels a little bit like an actual trap, doesn't it?
Walked right into it.
I didn't fail, but I failed.
The other investigator I was thinking this might be good in when I was thinking about the burst approach, going back to that, is Dexter, because it's easier for him to kind of just like to pop his ability to get this into play, and it doesn't
Hell
feel
yeah,
it doesn't
for
feel
one.
as bad to it doesn't feel as action intensive, and then once you're done with it, you can sack this to bring something else in. So
Yeah.
And like you don't even really care if you use all the
Sure,
charges.
yeah.
It's like, all right, fine, you were
Yep.
here, bye.
Yeah. Yeah, one action
God, I
to
love
use,
Dexter.
like, you just happen to use 3 and not 4. You're like, good enough. Like,
Yep.
Yeah.
It was fast and cost 1.
I got what I needed.
Yep.
Bye. Love Dexter so much. All right, anyway, let's move on to the ones that are going to be probably the most difficult to talk about
Wait.
usefully.
Enchanted Bow.
Oh, yep, we didn't skip over Enchanted Bow. Let's not do that. Okay, so Enchanted Bow is a level 2 Mystic and Survivor asset. It is 3 cost. It has a willpower and agility icon. I do not know this one by heart. I'm stumbling. Spell, blessed, weapon, and ranged traded. Uses 3 charges. It's uses.
Oh no, I've gotten you
action.
now too.
Yeah. Yeah. Action, exhaust Enchanted Bow.
Barf.
We'll be returning to that point. Fight. You must either use willpower or agility instead of combat and get +1 skill value for this attack. This attack deals +1 damage. As an additional cost to initiate this ability, you may spend 1 charge to have this attack target a non-elite enemy at a connecting location. If you do, ignore aloof and retaliate for this attack. And this takes up 2 hand slots and an arcane slot. Woo!
All right, say it with me, everybody. Not worth it.
Ooh.
Dude, okay, so
I
we're
played
gonna
this
say
for
a lot.
4 scenarios and I hated it.
Yeah. We're going to say a lot about this card, but that exhaust
Mm-hmm.
kills me.
Mhm.
If you are taking up 2 hand slots and an arcane slot and you exhaust, boy, you are getting fired.
Yeah.
You are getting fired on the day. and I will bring in a low-wage worker who will not exhaust.
And
I'm a
And
card
network
capitalist, I guess.
network adds to it's only a 2 damage shot. Like if it
Yes,
was
yeah,
if
yeah.
it was +2 damage.
That's what killed
Yeah.
me. That's what killed me is the +1. You get 2 damage a turn. Like, what is going on? This is not, I did, no,
And I mean, you can shoot, like, it does have, like, the snipe built in.
Oh, whoop-de-doo.
But I feel like you're not going to be using it that much. Like, I mean, like, even playing a deck where I'm sniping all the time
Right.
with, like, the scope or playing, was it marksmanship?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't use it that much.
Right.
Like, oftentimes I'm just there and I'm just shooting, right? Like, this asks so much, and it's 2 XP.
So I'm going to let Ian say a lot more about this, but I do think that Rita is one of the best arguments for this card.
Yeah.
Fair.
Ian, tell us why.
Yeah, I mentioned at the top that I was playing this with her. I mean, the exhausting is still a thing. It's still a blocker. With her, you're really leveraging like the sniping ability because you can dodge away with her ability and then ping them from afar, or set up shots in different ways by the way you're bouncing around the board, as Rita tends to do with like track shoes and all that good stuff. So yeah, I think Rita's a good user. I think the best way to think about this is not a primary killer weapon by any stretch of the imagination. This is a flex weapon only. This is those kind of builds where you're going to be contributing to attacking in very specific ways in a multiplayer game. But I don't think outside of certain investigators, a very limited set, that this is going to be your like primary killing weapon most of the time for that reason.
That's still a lot of slots. Even
For flexing.
Yeah, like that's holy cow.
You know what? Okay, so Brother Zagon in the chat, Ashcan Pete. That's where I'm like, okay, because
Because of the ready, because he can ready it.
Well, just because Duke's around to finish the work that the bow can't do.
But like, I mean, you use Duke for investigating or fighting or whatever. Like, I'm just thinking of he starts with 4 willpower, and the way I play my desperate Duke is I usually get him up to like 6.
Right.
And
okay,
like
That's just
I want to point out I wasn't actually serious. It's Ashcan Pete because Ashcan Pete can discard a card to ready.
that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because he
Okay,
can ready
yeah.
an asset. Yeah.
But also
yeah.
Duke will clean up for the bow.
Yeah, like, but yeah, you have, that's the thing. You have Duke, who starts in play, doesn't use a slot, Like,
Yeah.
what is what?
He's swinging as hard as this would be without enhancement anyway.
Exactly.
Oh no, I suppose no. Ashcan starts at 4 willpower,
Yeah.
so he'd be a 5 there.
Yeah.
That's this. I don't know. Like I said, I put it. I was doing Akachi, fill up as many spell slots as possible deck alongside Roland, and I was like, this seems like a net. Like I had Dragon Pole, and I wasn't too into it, and I was like, oh, let's go into Enchanted Bow, and I had it for 4 scenarios, and I was like, this is awful, and so I swapped it out for double sign magic, and I didn't look back.
I just want something from somewhere from this card. Just one give from any angle would be fine.
Exactly.
Why can't this card be Cyclopean Hammer?
I mean, you can say that about pretty much every card in the Arkham Horror.
Yeah.
Why aren't you Cyclopean Hammer?
Ian builds a deck of 30 Cyclopean Hammers.
Yeah. I pulled up my Desperate Duke just to see where I could possibly fit this.
Sure.
But honestly, so I have nothing in the Arcane slot, which is fine.
Sure.
But in the hands, I have Fire Axe and Meat Cleaver, and I'm playing around with Desperate with Meat Cleaver.
Both
So,
already better, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just...
And cheaper and
I
easier
don't
to
know.
get. Like,
I'll say
And doesn't exhaust.
oh my
Yeah.
god.
The exhausting
I'll say in the
is-
Battle of the Bows, I've been a heavy ornate bow user over these years. And the ornate bow is the clear winner for me because even though
Oh my
it's more
God.
expensive in terms of both XP and resource cost, and on the one hand you would say, oh, but you don't have to reload Enchanted Bow. But the thing is, like, the exhausting makes the Enchanted Bow almost have 1 ammo anyway, in a sense. You know what I mean? Like, because it's still like a hard cap on how much you can use it each turn. An ornate bow, usually I'm playing it in investigators that have extra actions or compression or something. So usually you're able to like knock it and get a couple of fires per turn. And you're getting 3 damage each turn instead of 2, which... It just makes a big difference in this world of 3 HP enemies these days, which is like the gold standard. It used to be 2 HP, now it's 3 HP. So it feels like the
Scott
minimum.
mentions anti-aircraft skids in 3.
Well,
Skids would laugh at this.
I mean, I'm not going to mention that deck, even though it is the greatest deck ever made. But Ornate Bow also doesn't take up an Arcane slot, and Ornate Bow doesn't take up an Arcane slot.
Right.
And it's neutral.
Yeah,
and it's
anyone
neutral,
can take it.
and it never runs out of ammo. Yes, you have to keep on knocking arrows, but it never runs out.
Well,
Yeah,
technically, this one doesn't either. It just runs out of itself once a turn.
The multi-location attacking is what that's taking the place of an ability that should give this card the weight it needs to make up for exhausting, and it just is. It's too situational to make it worth it.
Yeah,
You know
I
what
mean that's really the reason you take the card, because if you're not in it for the sniping,
then there's a million other things you can take.
Why are you
In
taking
both of
it?
these classes, for any of those slots, there's always a better option.
I'm gonna try it in my Desperate Duke just to see, but I'm not. I'm not like I don't think it's gonna be good.
Yeah, I'll see how the rest of my Rita campaign goes. I might be partially influenced because I just got finished playing a certain scenario in Edge of the Earth. I don't want to spoil too much for those who haven't played, but let's just say there's a scenario with lots of enemies attacking, and they're doing it in a way where they're moving towards you a lot. And so the ability to snipe them as they're kind of heading towards you, invasion style, was pretty useful in that scenario. So that's like foremost in my mind. But it'll be interesting to see how it plays out over an entire campaign with Rita.
All right. Well, I think then that brings us to probably where we're going to end tonight. As always, we're going to leave you guys wanting more. Let's cover the first of the triple class cards. I can't bloody remember where we're at. I think
it's prophetic.
Well, I know it's prophetic, but I can't remember where we're at in the reading order.
Oh, who
so
cares? Take it, Sean.
Oh, all right. So prophetic is a triple class card. It is Guardian, Mystic, and Survivor, level 3, costs 3, Has 2 willpower icons. It is talent traded. Uses 2 resources. Replenish these resources at the start of each round. Resources on Prophetic may be spent to pay for Fortune, Spell, or Spirit cards. And then free triggered ability. During a skill test on a Fortune, Spell, or Spirit card, spend a resource from Prophetic to get +1 skill test valid. Oh my god. Let me try that again. Spend a resource, get +1 skill value for this test. No slots!
I love these cards.
I love these cards overall. Prophetic specifically, you
Yes.
could remove Guardian and Survivor, and it would be just as good.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
This is a Mystic card.
Akachi took
is a
this,
fantastic
and
Mystic
Roland took Bruiser, and it was amazing. And not only that, I'm okay getting 2 copies of these cards because, like Sean said, they don't take up a slot. So if you have the opportunity to play the second one, oh my god, it's so these cards.
Not to mention you get both out, and it's like I can +4 a test every turn.
Yes, or I can
for free.
I can play a 4-cost gun for free. Like I can, oh my god, they're
Or a 2-cost card and +2 to a test.
or that. They're so versatile, you guys. No, I absolutely love. I've only played with Prophetic and Bruiser, but I love all of them because of how much I enjoyed those 2. And I'm like, yep, I see it for everybody now.
So focusing on Prophetic, it's the spell part that makes this insane, right? Okay.
Primarily.
I mean, Well, okay, so Fortune.
There are some good Spirit cards out there.
Yeah, Spirit's the other big one that stands out, but Fortune is the one that I think I'd really have to sit down and look at what my options are before I include it.
I think what's interesting about these is the different traits are really going to give you different things. So
Yes.
I feel like this is just me hip-shotting here, but Fortune and Spirit, this is going to be more of an econ card to help you pay for them and probably not do a whole lot of testing. But then for your spells, this is going to do both. You can pay for it when you feel when you have it to spare, but then for the rest of the game, you can use those resources to increase your tests on them. So I don't know. I feel like each one of these triple class cards kind of has its own interesting mix on what those traits look like.
Yeah, it's also what's interesting about it is that with this one specifically, spell is asset and event, and the other 2 are very largely just events. I'm struggling to think of any assets that are Fortune or Spirit traded, other than I guess like
so.
Solemn Vow. I think is Spirit traded.
I'm sorry, what card?
It's the Myriad 3 that it's Guardian. You play it under someone else's control, and then they can swap damage or horror or whatever.
It's a Calvin card.
It's a Calvin card. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why this feels like what Scott said. This is a Mystic card with just some extra bits stapled to it. That's because the spell part of this is so versatile, whereas the other 2 are super niche.
The Fortune part is for sure. It just pays for the event because I pulled up all the Fortune cards in these 3 classes. Spoiler alert: they're all Survivor.
Right.
Except for Tempt Fate, which is 0 cost, and Hit Me, which is dual class but Survivor. And I'm trying to look here. I don't think there's a single test on any of these cards, right? It's just
you just
but
be
a
reducing
lot of them,
cost.
a lot of them cost 2.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I haven't played these cards a ton. I need to try these out. Hearing you all rave about them, I think part of it has been not having the bandwidth to be like, I don't feel like looking up these traits to see what this actually affects.
That's
But I definitely get the spell application. That just seems like a no-brainer. I'm kind of curious about Calvin and Spirit stuff and seeing how that would go, or what's his face, Nathaniel. So it's I have a feeling still spell is probably the main attraction here, because usually in Nathaniel I'm not hurting for resources most of the time,
Right.
just the way I tend to build that deck, and similarly with Calvin, although there are some of these Spirit cards I was looking at in Survivor, some of the big splashy ones like Trial by Fire and what's the other one? Will to survive.
Oh, wait, that's not spirit.
Yeah, I think.
Is that spirit?
I think will to survive is spirit. Yeah,
It is,
yeah.
yeah.
So those,
Oh,
so that could help pay for
dropping that
those.
too.
But yeah, I need to try out these ones again. I think it's one of those things with the 3 XP and them being dual class. When it comes time to upgrade, I just forget they exist.
It's a bit of a curse, especially if you're sorted in a particular way that just kind of like adds an extra step to thinking about them. Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah, looking at the spirit cards, I mean, there's a decent amount that are tests, right? Because
Yeah.
we have all those combat ones that Nathaniel brought. But there's 64 cards that are spirit traded.
That's
Well, you know what? There's a couple repeats and stuff. Like
over
that, 'cause the
2
game update.
decks. Oh,
Yeah. I mean, when you take 2 copies, it's 128. But
Now do spells.
yeah. Oh, I mean, yeah. spells.
97 cards.
But yeah, this one might I initially thought just spells, but yeah, spirit is there's a lot of cards, and it's both tests and also paying for the card. Yeah.
And I know we got a little bit of the flavor with the level 4 versions of the core set skill adjusters. I don't know, whatever the hell we call those nowadays. But like this one specifically gives me like lots of Netrunner vibes. Like this sort of mechanic was
Yes.
very, very heavily used in Netrunner.
Yeah. Sean, it's 113 spells, by the way.
Oh my god.
Well, some of them are also doubled, right? Because we had
Sure.
they came in Jacqueline Fine and Path to Carcosa and the what do you call it, revised core set. But
Yeah. That's still a lot. That's a lot of cards.
and a lot of tests on those cards.
And a lot of tests on cards. Fantastic. I mean, anything else to say on Prophetic?
I just think in general these cards, and I mean we're gonna go over them all, but you pick a trait, and if that trait you can work it into your deck and make it flow. And this one has 3 good traits.
Yeah.
So I think 2 of them better than
Yeah.
I'd say Fortune is probably the least
how
one I'm excited
unfortunate.
about. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Spell is the number 1 trait I'm going to use it for, and Spirit is kind of in the middle. And I think it would be probably a Nathaniel or a Calvin deck. So, or any Mystic at all that's using spells.
Makes sense. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll leave you guys there for next time and pick up the rest of the triple class cards and the neutrals in. I mean, I'll knock on wood here. I think is going to be our last player card review episode. Then we're going to talk investigators on the next one, and then we get to bust into encounter cards, guys. We're going to be talking about Edge of the Earth until the end of time.
It's the year of Edge of the Earth.
Until the end of time.
Fantastic.
Also another good Calvin card. We've mentioned him a lot.
Oh, I haven't included that one in Calvin yet.
Really?
Because I cheat.
It's mandatory.
Nick goes, well, I've just never played Calvin, so. All right, excellent, guys. Well, let's move it into a little bit of technical time. Ian, what's been grabbing you lately?
Well, I remain busy. I think the only newish thing is I started and finished watching a TV show that I saw. One of the punk pages on Facebook that I follow recommended it. So it's a TV show on Peacock. It's called We Are Lady Parts, and it's about a British punk band. They're like 5 Muslim women in Britain, and they decide to form a punk band. Well, they already have a punk band going, and then the 5th member joins them. So it's a really great show. It's like a comedy, but obviously deals with some serious stuff, but mostly more on the lighthearted and kind of uplifting end, which is nice now and then to watch something like that. But I think it's a really great example of representation and showing it's not a community that I'm part of, but showing people's different ways of navigating their culture and religion in combination with something that they really love, like punk music. It attracted me because I'm a lifelong punk and still love punk music, and so that's what brought me into. Oh, and they created their own actual songs for the show, and the songs are great punk songs. So you can go look those up on Spotify and YouTube, and they're just great songs to listen to. But they're integrated into it. But yeah, it's just really cool showing these different characters who are all very different. Definitely a good example of how to stay away from stereotyping that particular community or any community, and just showing how each individual is very different in the ways they navigate. And I kind of identify that as someone who's like a person of color and was into punk, and like figuring out how do you reconcile that with like your family background and the culture that you came from, and punk has its own thing going on. So I don't know. I'm not really expressing it well, but I think it's just that show is a great example of how to just really show people kind of engaging with how complicated modern life is, with people coming from very different places, and just trying to figure out how to like bring together these different things that they love or have to struggle with in their lives. So the great thing about it is, in classic British fashion, there's only 6 episodes in this first series, and they're each...
That's why you started and
yes,
finished it.
and they're each only about 24-25 minutes on average. So super easy if anyone's interested to binge through, and I definitely recommend.
So it's like a movie.
Yeah, pretty much. It's pretty much like a movie at that point. Super easy to binge through. It's one of those classic, like, oh, I'll watch the episode to see if I like it, and yeah, it's done.
Scott, how about you?
Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga.
Oh, is it good?
Oh, it's good.
I mean, it's a Lego game. How much have they changed over the years?
A decent amount, right?
This one has. There's like, when you're fighting, there's actual combos, and you also have like aiming, so like over the shoulder stuff. There's like 9 different classes of characters that all have different abilities, and there's skill trees within those.
Okay, skill trees are legit new. That one, that's actually interesting.
There's like 20 open worlds. Like each planet in the game has an open world plus missions on that planet, like story missions. And then there's also, pardon me, there's space missions too. Like, and the fighting in space is actually like fun. Like the flying, it is a really good game.
Is it as good
Like-
as Squadrons?
No, I mean Squadrons
Is it as good as the best Star Wars flight sim, short of X-Wing versus TIE Fighter?
Yeah, I just I had to know.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun. The 2-player couch co-op is fantastic. I'm playing with my 5-year-old. He's having a blast. It's the first video game he ever bought with his allowance.
Ooh.
So he was quite excited for it. And yeah, I actually had the morning off the day after it came out. So we made like this paper link chain that was like 20 links long, because he's like, when is it coming out? When is it coming out? And wanted to watch the trailer like ad nauseum. It was kind of annoying. Anyway, so I put the chain up so he could like every day take a link off, right? And then
Oh, that's cute.
yeah, so like he knew, he's like, oh man,
Yeah.
there's only 8 more links and 6 more. And then the day of, he didn't want to break the link until he got home from kindergarten, which is like that's when we can play. And he wanted to like sit on the couch and hold the link like either side of it.
Oh,
And when we started the game, we could pull it apart.
your kid's adorable.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. I know.
King of delayed gratification, huh?
But then I had the next morning off, and usually he goes to daycare and then kindergarten in the afternoon. But I was like, hey, buddy, I'm going to keep you home, and we're going to play it all morning, too.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah. It was his first video game launch. It was awesome. But yeah, it's super fun. Before that, I was playing Mario Galaxy. No, not Mario Galaxy. Was it Mario Galaxy? What's the one where you go to all the little planets and you find
Sounds like Galaxy.
yeah,
Galaxy.
probably Galaxy. Yeah, we were playing that for a bunch before Star Wars, but now like our Switch is a Star Wars machine.
So I totally, there's a bunch of Mario games that I never played, and Galaxy and Galaxy 2 are among them. I follow a YouTube channel that does like every Mario game ever ranked. And they do these obscenely long videos. Like the Mario one was like 190 games or something. But they put Galaxy and Galaxy 2 as the number 2 and number 1 Mario games of all time.
What?
And I was like, really?
I don't
like,
know about that.
not only
Well-
have I never played them, but I haven't heard much about them. I was like, holy crap. And like, the ones you expect, like Super Mario Brothers 3 and Super Mario World are in the top 5, but I was so shocked to see Galaxy and Galaxy 2 as I was like, I guess I have to try these games at some point.
I was gonna ask you for a link, but then after playing Mario Galaxy, I'm not asking you for a link to that because I'm just gonna get angry because it's wrong, is what it is.
What's the best in your opinion?
I mean,
Yeah, what's top, Scott?
Well, if you don't have an answer like right away, like
I mean, Mario 64
Sure.
is up there.
sure.
Odyssey is
Odyssey's
really,
really
good.
yeah.
Oh, maybe it
Like,
was Odyssey. Are there
fantastic.
2 Odyssey games?
No.
Nope, just one.
Okay, no, then it was Galaxy. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't think you could, like, and the thing is too, like, Sean, you said this 1,000 times. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug, right? Mm-hmm. And having played, because I bought the old Mario games on the Switch, like there was a
Yeah.
package.
Yeah.
And I played through 64 again, and I was like, I love that game. Like, that was a game that I beat from 0 to
Same.
120
Yep.
stars dozens of times, right? Like, I'd finish 120 stars, watch the thing, go see Yoshi, delete my file, start again. Like, that was just, like, weekly almost,
Sure.
okay? And I went back and played it, and I was like, this game was revolutionary for its time.
Oh yeah.
It was super fun. I still had fun going back, but I'm like,
Yeah.
Odyssey is
Doesn't
better.
hold up as much, yeah. Mhm.
Well, it's like games have moved on, right?
Well,
just
yeah, of
simplistic.
course.
Yeah, and so like when people say like, "Oh man, like the best Link ever was," I don't know, this whatever
Link's
the, what's the
Awakening or
island one?
something. Oh,
Sure, I'm like-
Wind Waker, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, sure. Like, I mean, it's probably great, and for its time, it was revolutionary. Same thing with all these other, like, GoldenEye. I bought the redo of GoldenEye, and I was like, this was a mistake. Back then, it was amazing.
Sure was.
And then I played all these games that came after it, and I look back, and at its time, it was amazing. But if you're going to make a ranking of, like, the best games of all time, I'm sorry, but nostalgia can't be part of that.
Well, yeah, that's why they said
That's what I-
Galaxy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I
I think
I-
those lists are flawed as a premise to
Well,
begin
of
with,
course they
because
are.
taking games out of the
Yeah, it's
context in which they were
impossible,
made
really.
is just it's
I
an exercise.
I'd put Odyssey.
but
ahead
then
of
wouldn't the
Galaxy,
greatest
though.
game of all time always be Mario Brothers? Like, wouldn't that always, if you're always going to consider it in when it came out, wouldn't Mario Brothers always be the game?
or Pong, like the first video game kind of
Well,
thing.
you
Like,
guys are talking maybe more like in terms of cultural impact, but
yeah.
I mean, look, like numbered lists about subjective things are flawed as a premise to
Well,
begin
of course,
with.
I'm not
anyway.
saying I wasn't saying it was definitive. I'm just saying in that list, I was surprised to see 2 Mario games that I had no exposure to be the number 1 and number 2.
I would not put Galaxy in the top 5.
What about
Like,
Galaxy?
not
2?
even. Well, I mean, I haven't played Galaxy.
Oh,
2,
okay.
But I like have the Mario games that I have played. I would not even consider putting Galaxy in the top 5, including nostalgia. Which, I mean, I don't have nostalgia for Galaxy because this is the first time I've played it. But I mean, even mechanics and how you play it.
I'm in the
and
same boat as
the
you,
level
Scott.
design and everything.
Sure.
Like, man, there's like, it's got some neat little things with gravity because all these planets are
Right.
tiny. But it's not, and like you can point at things like physically with the controller. Like it's got that kind of motor part of it, but it's not as good.
Like Odyssey does something similar to Galaxy, but it does it better than Galaxy does. So it just like, if I'm gonna play it, it's definitely gonna be Odyssey.
Odyssey's the one where he's like in the real world for part of it.
Yeah,
That's one of the
so
levels,
weird to me.
yeah. Or world.
Yeah.
I mean, it's New Donk City. It's
Sure.
meant to be like New York, but
Right.
like, yeah, there's people who are normal shaped people.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the weirdest thing to like. I don't like that. That makes me feel uncomfortable. Like it's
Yeah,
almost
the talking hats.
It's
cool.
It's almost well, no,
Normal
because that's
sized people?
cartoony, just like Mario. But it's the fact that you
Yeah.
have Mario proportioned like Mario. It's you know what it's like. You know what it reminds me of is Sonic Adventure, which was the weirdest fucking thing because it's Sonic as a cartoon character
Well,
next to regular people.
There's this, Nick. In Odyssey, you can take control of a giant T-Rex and stomp around.
I have seen that.
so,
I have seen
yeah.
that. That's super cool.
I would have to put Mario 64 or Odyssey as my number 1.
See, and I
and
think
the second one would be the other one.
I've totally missed all the modern Marios though. To me, like World is
Me
still
too.
the best. The
I think Mario. Oh man, Super Mario World might be. Okay, so
World.
top 5, not in order: 64, Odyssey, World, Super Mario 3, and I guess the first one.
I wouldn't put it as number one,
I
but
guess-
I'm very partial to number 2 because it's so oddball.
I love Mario
yeah,
2.
it's
Thank
Yeah, exactly.
God, I was just about to be the one. Am I the only Mario 2
Yeah.
stan
Oh, I
here? So
love.
thank
I've
God.
always, yeah, it's so good. Like that's the one I played the most as a kid because that was the
Yeah.
one that we had. It's so fun.
variable classes with individual abilities. No skill trees, but
can't
you
ask
know.
for everything.
Oh, what's the Mario versus Rabbids?
Oh, that game is amazing.
Oh yeah, sure.
The kingdom
Battle,
battles.
I love
Yeah.
that game.
So
That one's
you, gu-
really good.
you guys know about Mario 2? How it wasn't supposed to be a Mario game.
Well, it was
Developed as-
in
It
Japan.
wasn't.
It's a different game, and they just relabeled it for the West.
Yeah, I feel like that happened with Rabbids. Mario versus Rabbids. Like,
Probably.
since when does Mario have guns? Like, it just
Well, that's a
I feel-
holdover from the Rayman side of it, which is where Rabbids come from.
yeah, I feel like someone made a Marvel game and they couldn't get the Marvel license, and so they just
So they're like, all right, what's our next best thing?
Oh, we can get
Fucking
we
Mario.
can get this
Well, no.
bullshit.
they sold it to Nintendo, and Nintendo's like just scrambling. Oh, what do we have the licenses for? Ourselves and I don't know.
I don't know. The Rabbids did gangbusters in the Wii generation. Like, fucking kids loved that shit.
The Rabbids are awesome. Like, I
find
as
them
someone who
annoying
never
as hell.
plays Rayman or has never played Rayman, the Rabbids are cool.
I had Raving Rabbids on Wii, and it was just a lot of
Yeah, yeah. My exposure to Rabbids is only in their cameos in other games.
I also had a roommate at one point who had the Raving Rabbid like "da" as his ringtone,
Oh God.
and it was just as awful.
I
as
thought
it
you were gonna say you had a rabbit.
Did you
as
kill
a
that roommate?
That
When
might
you
have been
say
entertaining.
Yeah,
had a
had.
roommate.
On WPN, 6 p.m. Central. Rabbit as a roommate.
Oh, gotcha.
Nick, what's your channel?
There's two things that I'm going to talk about. One of them I think Sean's also going to talk about, so I'll save that one for last. But I have recently discovered, and he's not new by any means, but so I love watching long form video essays on YouTube. It's something that I kind of started with H-Bomber Guy, and now I follow a number of people on YouTube who that's the kind of content they put out. And I especially love it if it intersects with video games. And H-Bomb is great. I love him. His videos are too infrequent. But I found another guy who isn't as, like, he's not a comedy essayist like H-Bomb is. He's much more, like, critical thinking. And the best thing is that his videos are just B-roll of the game, so you can just have it on while you're doing something else and just listen to him. But his name is Noah Caldwell Gervais. And it's all three of his names are his YouTube title, so that that's easy right off the bat, obviously. But anyway, the way that I found him was YouTube recommended a 7.5 hour Resident Evil entire series retrospective, and I was like, I think I'm in the mood for a 7.5 hour video game critique. And it was great. It was really good, and I've been just devouring his content. He scratches a particular gaming itch that I don't get a lot nowadays, which is like the 90s/early 2000s PC gaming, because that was the last time I did a lot of PC gaming before, like, now. Pretty much anything from 2006 to 2018, I didn't touch PC games. So the fact that he's covering like Red Faction and StarCraft and Half-Life and these older PC games, that's also
Deus Ex.
Yep. He talks about Deus Ex. He talks about Fallout. So that's really speaking to a certain a very specific type of nostalgia, that I haven't really catered to or given into recently. So anyway, Noah Caldwell Gervais, he's really cool. His stuff is awesome. He has shorter videos as well, obviously. Sean,
like the 2-hour Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic one.
Yes, which is really good. He also has the one that I linked to the people in our Elden Ring group on Discord. I linked his, because his most recent video was the Dark Souls trilogy, and I was talking to Case about that, and he's like, hasn't that review already been done to death? I'm like, it has, but I love hearing Noah's, like, his thoughts on games so much that it's totally worth it. And because he was not a part of the Soulsborne community at all before like 4 months ago. And he made a point.
So as a complete outsider.
Yes, he made a point to not to not look stuff up, and he evaluated the stories and the gameplay and everything totally cold, which that's not something that you see a lot now. Like everybody, I'm sure Ian could answer a couple of Souls questions. You know what I mean? Whatever. But anyway, so yeah, Noah Caldwell Gervais, great content on YouTube if you like long form game critiques. But the other thing that I've been spending my time on, and that I often listen to Noah while I'm doing it, is I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring. I'm in like the perfect position because I'm like, I feel like I'm between 20 minutes and 8 hours behind everyone else I know who's playing it. So I feel like I can just freely talk about whatever and not have to worry about spoiling anything for anybody. I still spoiler tag stuff on Discord just to be safe, but I kind of get that feeling like everyone else has seen this shit and I'm the one going in behind and experiencing it. But it's really good. There are some elements of it that, and I don't want to like, it's hard for me to talk about it because I haven't finished the game. Obviously, there's so much I haven't seen yet, but there's definitely some elements of it that are frustrating, and that I have a hard time, like, it makes it difficult for me to judge where I would put Elden Ring in the, the almighty Soulsborne tier list. I know for sure I like Bloodborne more than Elden Ring, but I don't know if I like Elden Ring more than, like Dark Souls 2 or whatever. So,
Sure.
But yeah, it's really, really fun. I was going to say I'm about X amount of percent through it, but I honestly have no idea how far I am from the end.
Every time I think I know about how much of the map I've uncovered, like it explodes again, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. But I just got to I didn't just get to it. I feel like I'm most of the way through the story part of the capital city.
Okay.
So I'm a pretty ways into it. I did like Caelid.
You're ahead of me then.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So what was the last boss that you fought then?
After Radon, I went and did a bunch of the Ronnie side quest stuff. So I haven't even gotten into the capital yet.
So you went down to like Necron and okay. Did you do the Ancestor Spirit?
Yes.
Oh my god, that's such a good boss fight.
I liked that one, and I liked the similar one from Shafra.
That Ancestor Spirit's in Shafra.
Yeah.
Okay, then I don't know which
I'm
one.
stuck on the one that comes after that.
Oh, that's where you're talking. Okay. See, and I couldn't figure out. I thought I did Shafra and I did Ancestor Spirit and all that, and I was like, I think I've hit everything down here for now. So I left and went to the capital city, but apparently I missed a path where you're stuck on. So I should go back and check that out.
Well, and even so I spent the majority of today. I gave myself like a day off, so I just was a piece of shit and played Elden Ring like all day. I have been slamming my head up against the first boss that has truly stopped me up in my entire time playing. And oh man, I am not having a great time. And what sucks is that at the same time that I'm going up against this boss that just completely is counter to my play style, I cannot gain any ground. It is stupid. I also can't summon in. Something's going on with my network. I tried to get both Jake and Justin in on my game earlier. Neither of them could get in. So I'm just doomed now to like Sisyphus it against this boss for eternity. But yeah, I don't know.
I am still like, I casually watch some Elden Ring videos once in a while. Just because like the game is still like, I'm like, wow, this is a really entertaining game. I'll never have time for it. Which is fine because it's single player.
You had time for
Like,
Breath of the Wild. I think you could probably. Well, I don't know. Your job is a little different now.
Yeah, pre-kid, yeah.
Yeah.
Pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
Anyways,
It's a whole
doesn't
different
matter.
world.
I mean, look,
But-
dude. There is a tipping point with dependents. Like, as soon as dependents outnumber the adults, it's over.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
That's me 2 weeks from now.
I'm just surprised it's taking you guys longer than 7 minutes to beat the game because I'm looking at these speedruns and like 6:46. Come on, guys! Like,
So
Yeah.
So Sean, what weapon and what Ash of War are you using?
Right now, so I've got like a primarily like faith and strength build going because I'm trying to be like I'm trying to dip a toe into casting, but I'm like forever a melee scrub. It's
Right.
just it's too fun. So right now I am using Sacred Blade as my Ash of War on the Great Scythe, like the strength
Oh, sure.
scaling scythe. And I'm having a really good time with it. I have not used a scythe in any prior Dark Souls except for DS1. It was the little great scythe that just like it has such a lame fucking animation. You just like lift the scythe up directly up above your head and then like jank it down directly down. There's no slash, there's no finesse, but it's very good. So we played through that one.
Nice.
How about you?
I am rocking. I have two weapons that I alternate depending on if it's safe for me to get super close to the enemy. I go with my Highland axe, which is just a basic axe. But I'm rocking the Lion's Claw Ash of War on it, and that's the one where you do the flip and bring it down on the enemy. So you do like a forward flip and bring it down. So I can use it from a little further away. It closes the distance, and the hit, it does insane damage, and it usually staggers or knocks the foe down. So I have had multiple boss fights where I'm like L2, 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 back up, drink a cerulean flask, go forward again, L2, 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 and that's the boss fight. That was fun. Cool. But then there's also boss fights where like that just straight up doesn't work. And when that happens, I pull out my twin blades, of which I'm using Loretta's Slash, which is really cool because when you activate that, and I've used Sacred Blade with them too because it does a similar thing. When you activate the Ash of War on that, it looks like I have a dual lightsaber. It looks like I have with Loretta's Slash, it's blue, and with Sacred Blade, it's gold. I just have to get the Blood Blade Ash of War, so it's red, and I can just be Darth Maul.
Hell yeah! Where do you get the twin blade? Like I see
I
people rocking it.
don't
It must be in Limgrave somewhere, right?
Yeah, I got it early, and I didn't use it for
Yeah, I
the
should just
longest
look it up.
time. And then I was just like, I've never used twin blades in any of the Souls games. I'm gonna try them out.
I mean, it doesn't matter for this build. I assume that is a hard dex weapon.
Well, I have it set to heavy, so I use it with strength because your Ash
right.
of War.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so look, the Ash of War mechanic I love. I
great.
love, and it makes it so much better when you pick up a new weapon because you actually have a goddamn prayer of using it, even if it's not like technically your skill type. Really big fan of that.
Yeah.
It makes for a much better variance of builds, which you know is pretty great.
It doesn't feel like you're locked out of weapons just because you decided to go strength or whatever.
So I have to say, I've been playing a lot of Elden Ring and enjoying the hell out of it. I think I passed 100 hours recently. Unexpectedly, though, my wife, who is not like a regular gamer, but when she finds a game, she hits it pretty hard. She went from World of Warcraft was the first one that we like played together a lot, and then recently got her into Breath of the Wild because great game. So I'm like, all right, well, the common denominator between those two is just like fun exploration, right? So I'm like, okay, look, darling, I know that it's going to seem hard, but like Elden Ring is a great open world and I really think you'd like it. So she agreed and started playing and took to it. And now she's like 30 hours into the game. So now I have a secondary character that I'm leveling up alongside her that's going to cut into my main play because my wife is like fighting me for the PS5 now so she can play Elden Ring. I am immensely proud. She has taken down several bosses without my help, and she's gotten quite good at dodging. Like she went up against this one boss that's like really big and swings on you constantly. So like you either have to do ranged or you have to be on point with your dodges. and she beat that boss without any help, and I was so proud and turned on and all the things, and it's been really cool to watch my very non-gamery wife just pick up one of, like, you know, ostensibly probably one of the harder games you could hope to pick up nowadays. Also, she's a lot more understanding when I have my freakouts when I lose to a boss. Now she knows.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's been a really good time. And Scott, this game will be here in 10 years when your kids are a little bit older and you do have more time. And I bet it'll hold up pretty well.
Well, remember, I made that promise that I would play 4 hours of a Souls-like game when I'm at your house.
Yeah.
That I would try out my first Souls game, and I commit to putting in a few hours because I realize I can't try it for 20 minutes and get an opinion.
Yeah.
So
Accurate.
If this is the game I play, then
Ian, you
get to choose the game.
Ian, you should make a similar vow so that Sean can show you Bloodborne and show Scott, because I think those are the perfect games for you to like. Elden Ring's great and the Dark Souls games are great, but I think Ian is a Bloodborne player before the rest.
I
of
would
them.
tend to agree.
Am I an Elden Ring player?
Yes, yeah, you're definitely Elden Ring.
I think so. I think so.
The fact I'm watching.
I look forward to catching up on all these games when I'm retired.
Do you guys also do that thing where you like keep all your discs like in some misguided hope that like your old consoles will still be playable upon retirement?
Yeah,
somehow.
I still have some old stuff.
I
recently purged.
Yeah, I sold
It's probably a good idea.
my PS2 and the over 120 games I had for my PS2 way back in the years ago, and ever since then I fucking regretted it, because there are games on the PS2 specifically that I had that you just can't, like the original Amplitude and Frequency. You can't get those. And they re-released War of the Monsters, but it's just not as good as the classic one. I don't know. I just super regret getting rid of my PS2, and the what I consider a pretty sizable library for it.
Well, if there's anything I have, I've got like the X-Men Legends games. You can borrow those.
Those were great too. I still think that those were better than the Marvel Ultimate Alliance ones, but that's just me.
Ultimate Alliance 1 was solid.
Oh, I mean, they're both fun, but like X-Men Legends and X-Men Legends 2, when that formula was still new, I was like, yeah, these are perfect.
2 was great. 2 was really good. 1 was really fun, but a little rough around the edges. But yeah, really, really good ones. The last thing I'm going to say on Elden Ring before we close it out for this episode is that Justin is also playing with us. And obviously he's not on the podcast to speak for himself, so I will speak for him. Justin is into some cheese shit.
Does he do the zipping?
No, not that level. Not that level of cheese. He's got like this pure glass cannon caster. I'm gonna post a very short video here in the chat to show you guys what I'm talking about.
A little salty.
No. I just want to bring Justin into this. So I was like, hey, I just found this new boss. Anyone around? I posted in our chat. You want to help me out with this boss? So I had like not tried this boss at all, and Justin's like, yeah, I'll hop in. I got this new spell I want to try, and he hops in and just absolutely melts the boss in front of my eyes. I got like 2 hits in, and they didn't amount to anything. Justin did it all.
Oh, and it's O'Neill.
It was so ridiculous. Yeah.
Is it the spell that's like a giant beam of light?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah.
Well, and not only that, but he found an item, because that the trade-off is it drains your magic points the whole time. But he found an item or whatever that gives him 10 seconds of spells costing 0 magic. Oh, I just watched the video. Yeah, O'Neill gave me trouble, but that... Ugh. Good for you, Justin.
So, yeah, good job, man. Good job. And he beat the game today, he announced. So the first one among us has finally beat the game.
He shot through it like the beam of blue energy.
So yeah, anyway, I just wanted to praise / shame him as we close tonight. All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for episode 128 of Mythos Busters. We'll catch you guys next time.